Good morning, everybody. I'm Trandy Phillips, Chair of the BRN, and I'm going to be calling this meeting to order. The first thing I will be doing is calling to orders to the roll call and establishment of a quorum. As I said, I'm Trandy Phillips. I'm the direct care provider, RN, and I was appointed by the governor. Now going to my right to establish a quorum.
Good morning, Barbara Yaroslavsky, public member appointed by the State Senate.
Good morning, Pilar de la Cruz Reyes. I'm in the nurse administrator role, and I was appointed by the governor.
Good morning, Donna Gerber. I'm a public member, and I'm appointed by the Speaker of the Assembly.
Good morning, Elizabeth Woods, appointed by the governor in the advanced practice role.
Good morning, I'm Michael Jackson, appointed by the governor in the faculty role.
And I am Joe Morris. I'm the executive officer for the Board of Registered Nursing here.
And I'm Spencer Walker, the board's attorney.
I'm happy to see all of you here. Nice turnout. Before we get started, I'd like to do two things. First of all, to make sure that we're able to get all the participants that would like to make public comment today the chance to do that. I'm going to be limiting comment to 5 minutes per person so that we can give everybody an opportunity. The other thing that I will be doing is if we're discussing something and there's people that support or object to anything we are discussing, sometimes if a point's been made, you may want to just affirm that you're supporting points that have already been made, or rather than if you have another item that you want to bring up and you think is really important to be considered. So anyway, I just want to make sure that we move our discussions along so we can get through our agenda today, because I know people do have planes to catch. The other thing I'd like to do as a point of personal privilege is I would like to acknowledge a couple of people in the room that have been really important in our board over the years, so I want you to just know that they're here. We have Ruth Ann Terry here, who is a former executive officer. Is Ruth Ann here? Stand up. We also have Louise Bailey in the audience, if she would stand up. And we have Francine Tate. And when it comes to Francine, as president of the board currently, I would like to acknowledge her because I'm only in my first year and I'm finding it very challenging. And this young lady not only was on the board for many years, but she served as president for 4. So I just want to thank her for her service. So thank you to all of you for your service to this board and to the public. We really do appreciate it. And we also have some other visitors that have come to this meeting, which we really do appreciate. They came from out of state not to be here. And that's our national council. If you would please stand up, the National Council Board of Nursing, stand up and introduce yourselves. And we really appreciate them making the time to come to our board meeting. So thank you very much. So now I would like to go back into the agenda, which is item 2.0, and that's for public comment for items not on the agenda. If anybody has public comment, would you please come forward to the microphones and be sure to introduce yourself so we know who it is and we can speak to it later on. Thank you very much. Any public comment? All right. With no public comment, then we're going to move on to item 3.0. And if people have the agenda items, you'll see these things are all on our materials for the agenda that you can reference yourselves. The first thing we'll be voting on is the board meeting, September 6 to 7, 2017 board meeting minutes. The board's had those meeting minutes. Is there any board comment?
Make a recommendation that we accept the minutes.
Second that.
Okay, is there any comment from the board or the public? Okay, all in favor, please
Michael
say.
Jackson, yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, abstain.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Pilar de la Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Okay, moving on to item 3.2, October 3rd, 2017 board meeting minutes.
Michael Jackson recommends that we accept.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Or
Jackson
just go
votes
for
yes.
the vote?
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Pilar de la Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
November 7th through 9th, 2017 board meeting minutes. I move that we approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, please vote.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Pilar Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
January 10th, 2018 board meeting minutes.
I move that we accept.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Please vote.
Michael Jackson votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips abstain.
Pilar Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Thank you. January 23rd, 2018 board meeting minutes.
I vote to accept.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, vote.
Michael Jackson votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Pilar Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Okay, thank you. Now I would like to move on to item 4.0, report on board members' activities. Do I have any reports?
Madam Chair, I'd like to report, please.
Very good, please do.
I'd like to report that I was in Puerto Rico not too long ago, and I went there with National Nurses United and RN to RN, and I worked with the International Medical Corps there, and it's a mess in Puerto Rico. It remains a mess. Mostly electricity is a problem, but water is also a problem, and many schools are still closed because people can't get from one place to another. So I won't go much further on it, but I think most of you have been aware of what's going on in Puerto Rico, and it's nowhere near being taken care of.
Thank you. Are there any other comments that people would like to make? And thank you very much, Ms. Woods, for your service in behalf of the public and the community. Item 5.0, board and department activities. We'll go to 5.1, and I hand this over to our executive officer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone, again. This is just an update on the activities that are taking place within the board. In regards to the organizational update, the board continues to review many of its internal business processes. Particularly, the nursing education consultants are now finalizing their workflow processes and many of their policies and procedure manuals. This also includes, but not limited to, the school visits, continual visits, the education liaison role, and the orientation of new nursing education consultants. Just a reminder, if you have not already, to log on to the board's updated website. In August 2017, the board launched the Green Project, in efforts to streamline costs and update many of its processes, eliminating the paper renewals and the plastic pocket cards. This is already proven to be a cost-saving measure to the board. So again, we would like to thank all the licensing staff, including the managers, for working on this project. Moving on to the annual school survey. The survey is currently closed and the data is being processed by the University of California, San Francisco. UCSF administered a survey on behalf of the BRN, and the report is expected to be completed by late February. So many of you have contacted the board regarding the data. So just be aware that it should be released in several weeks from now. The board would also like to thank all participants that completed the 2017 Customer Satisfaction Survey. This survey was administered not only in 2016, but again in 2017 to our stakeholders that are around the state here. In 2016, it was reported that 21,756 stakeholders responded to the survey within a 2-month period. And however, in 2017, that was 28,000 stakeholders that responded to the survey. And in virtually every area of the board, including the enforcement unit, the licensing unit, staff professionalism, responsiveness, service, and more so, the board experienced significant improvement from the previous years. And so we will continue to launch this survey every year and utilize the data to prove many of the board's internal business processes. So again, thank you for responding to the survey. In regards to outreach, the staff is currently working with DCA Marketing to produce outreach material related to our intervention and probation program. The outreach efforts will include a variety of methods, including social media, online content, staff presentations, and a webinar across the state. For more information about these initiatives and the BRN intervention and probation program, we ask that you visit our BRN website. Something also new to the board, beginning January of this year, the board welcomed a graduate student who is completing their Master's of Science in Nursing degree. The student will work closely with the executive officer and the nursing education appointed consultant to assist the students with completing their course requirements of their master's program. The student will present their final project to the board in the fall, and we will continue to support welcoming graduate students to complete internships in the near future.
Dr. Morris, is the student here today?
Let's see.
If they are, if you could introduce them. If not.
I think she's in class.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to check just in case so we could meet
Good
them.
answer.
We're glad they're here, even if they can't be at the meeting.
We'll make sure that we have her here at the next meeting.
All right.
Very excited.
Unless she's in class.
Take on this opportunity. The board is currently working with the Department of Corrections to support their efforts to increase the partnerships with academia to expose, the LVN to RN apprenticeship program. Currently, there are several academic institutions within the northern region that have accepted the agreement to partner with the Department of Corrections. Department of Correction officer, Chief Nursing Officer, is scheduled to meet with the deans and directors throughout the state in April to provide more information about their apprenticeship program. We're really excited about the relationship with corrections and the academic institutions, and the board again is just want to ensure them that we're going to do what we can to just help bridge that relationship with them. Clinical displacement experiences. 2017 of October, the board released a clinical displacement survey throughout the state to its deans and directors. However, the survey is currently being revised as we noted that it had many flaws throughout the survey. The purpose of the survey is to gain more in-depth understanding of clinical placement issues concerning nursing schools located throughout the state. Once the new survey is distributed and received, the board will analyze the data and present the findings to the Nursing Education and Workforce Committee with recommendations. This is a very complex matter, therefore we need all institutions to work collectively and respond to the survey accordingly. The board continues to comply with the public records requests and respond within the required time frames that are set in Government Code Section 6250. For the period of August 28, 2017 to February 2, 2018, the BRN received and processed 50 public records requests. Moving on to 5.3, technology update. BRN staff continue to notify licensees who are missing fingerprints in the online Breeze system. As previously stated in my November 2017 report, the fingerprint deficiency statement is now printed on the RN renewal notice that are mailed 90 days in advance to licensees. Same deficiency statement is also indicated in the individual's online Breeze account. Licensees are given 60 days to comply with the fingerprint requirements before submitting fingerprints to the Department of Justice and providing proof of fingerprints submission to the board. Licensees that remain deficient are mailed a second reminder letter 30 days after the initial letter to remind them to follow up with the requirements. Therefore, nurses are given 60 days from the receipt of the initial letter to respond before possible disciplinary actions are taken. Licensing manager will provide more information regarding this process in her report. BRE continues to implement the cloud drive and accept electronic transcripts from programs throughout the state of California, including the self-studies. Cloud Drive was successfully launched in December 2016 and is currently used, in its current use has proven to be quite effective. Because of its great success, the board will implement a pilot process with accepting the electronic transcripts from out-of-state endorsers through approved third-party vendors. Again, my licensing manager will provide more information on this update in her report. I also want to mention that the use of the cloud will also be, well, it's currently being piloted by the Attorney General as well, and the transmitting of enforcement cases throughout the state. And my enforcement chief will also talk about that in her report as well. Moving on to 5.4, budget update. In spring of 2017, the board submitted a budget change proposal requesting additional staff in the board's enforcement division. The positions are necessary to better serve and protect the mission, serve and protect the public, and serve the mission of the board. The board will prepare its BCP for fiscal year 19-20 beginning March 2018. In this proposal, we will request additional resources based on the staffing needs throughout the board. The governor's budget for fiscal year 2018-2019 is approximately $47.4 million, with 107 point net personal years. The board's fund condition, which is listed in my report, shows a reserve over the current year, 2017-2018, of 2 months. And this is without the additional fees. So keep in mind, our fees are yet to be approved. They're moving through the process. And listed in that report gives an overview of what our reserve would be. And if you want more information about the report, I won't read line for line, but you can look at my report and it will highlight what our budget's on. I want to move on to the staffing update. There are currently 24 positions that are actively being recruited for hire for the board. And listed in my report are those positions. I also want to acknowledge the retirement, a couple of retirements that we've had. And it's Karen Abaganyi. She served for the state for over 27 years. And she was a program technician in the licensing unit. She worked until December 2017. We'd like to thank Karen for her years of service with the board, and she will be truly. And that pretty much concludes my report, Madam President.
Okay, thank you very much. So now I will be moving into the report of the Administrative Committee. And first item is item 6.1, which is review and possible vote on whether to adopt the 2018-2021 strategic plan. And that's something that we had the draft strategic plan and the board's been working on. And I'd like to make a motion at this time that I move we table the review and adoption of the draft 2018 through 2021 strategic plan into a future meeting of the board. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, do I have any board comment? Do I have any public comment? Then I move to the vote.
Michael Jackson votes yes.
Sorry, excuse me. Are we okay? Okay, so moving on to the vote.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Okay, then we'll be moving on to item 6.2. Item 6.2 is discuss and possible vote on seeking legislation to authorize the board to place a temporary moratorium on nursing school approvals and expansions to address registered nursing students' clinical displacement. This is an issue there's been a lot of discussion on. We've seen a lot of different concerns and things that have been brought up in education and licensing and other areas during the board and committee meetings. I'd like to turn this over to Donna Gerber for some comments she'd like to make.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll just briefly try to kind of set the stage for the discussion of this particular item. If the board members and public recall, in November, the board voted to designate the administrative committee to work on the issue of clinical displacement, to conduct meetings, to do research, to look at the issue from every angle that we could, and to, in fact, bring back to the board at this meeting a proposal for a legislative solution if we could come up with one. So that's the process that we've gone through in order to bring this particular proposal. We have met with our staff, we have met with our legal advisors, we have received and scrutinized all kinds of information that has come to us from all the various partners that are involved in nursing schools in California, as well as students. And we think that the proposal before the board is the proper, prudent thing for us to do at this time. Let me give a little background on that. Actually, the good news is California has been very successful. We have increased the number of students from about 6,000 per year to the most recent number in 2017 of 11,500 students taking the NCLEX. We've also had an increase in the clinical training capacity with our clinical partners, whether they be inpatient or outpatient. And we've seen a real trend toward making sure that students get clinical experiences in all the various appropriate settings within California. As well, there has been the use, of course, of simulation training and lab training. However, what the board has experienced, and really I would say, discussion of clinical displacement has been going on for quite some years, actually. I noticed that it was mentioned in our 2010 Sunset report to the legislature, a discussion of the problem, a discussion of the issues, a discussion of the potential ways to address it. It was discussed again in 2014, and it was discussed most recently in our Sunset review process of 2017. So this is something that we've been talking about, that everybody affected has been talking to us about, that our staff has been trying to problem solve, and frankly, I really want to congratulate our staff for the work that they do in this area. Working with schools, working with clinical partners, trying to assist everyone involved, the consortiums that are set up in various parts of the state to try to coordinate the clinical placements and keep track of where all the students are and all of that. A lot of work has gone on to try to make sure that we meet our obligation that students, nursing students in California, receive and have access to the education and the clinical training that they will need in order to be the best registered nurses, we hope, in the country. So a lot of people have put a lot of work into this, a lot of different ideas on how to deal with it. Unfortunately, we're sort of the victims of our success. We have approved additional schools. We are now at 141 programs. I think if I remember the number correctly, in around 2008, I think we were at about 108, something like that. So we've increased programs. We've done a lot of creative things. A lot of the educational institutions are being as creative as they know how to try to make sure that students have access to education in California and have access to the very best education. However, it is a problem. We've become increasingly aware of real displacement, of real clinical displacement going on between different regions, with sometimes more difficult in some regions than others. And we've also noticed that we don't always get the kind of information that we need to actually make sure that when we approve new schools or when we approve expansions of existing schools, we're not always getting good data about whether or not, in fact, by doing so, we will cause additional displacement problems. So, again, in discussion with all of the parties that we've worked with on this, and looking back over everything that has been attempted and tried, and in taking into account the very clear input that the Education Committee has been receiving, that the board in general and staff have been receiving, it's clear to us that we need to get, as a board and as a state, we need to get a better handle on exactly what's going on. And we feel that if we can do that, we will come up with even better solutions and better tools and better ways to help all of the parties involved, again, provide the very best education in the country here in California. So that's the reason that we are proposing to the board to adopt a legislative proposal that would give the board the statutory authority to, under certain circumstances and if necessary, and in particular regions that may be affected, the authority to impose a temporary moratorium on either approvals or expansions as we go through this process. So that's the proposal before the board, is to take a look at this language. The language has been developed by our legal counsel. It's been looked at by all the appropriate legal experts and staff experts, and that's what you have before you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to say that while we're going through this process, we're looking at this language. One of the things that the survey, the latest survey for the state of nursing in the state of California, was that we are not experiencing a nursing shortage at this time. So we're not talking about doing this during a crisis period for nursing in the state. We want to just continue to ensure the public safety and the quality of education and experience for our nursing students. So what we're looking at right now is Section 2786 of the Business and Professional Code that would be amended. Excuse me. In your agenda materials, you'll see the language that we have been provided with. It's under the Business and Professions Code 2786. We're adding an item number E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and L. So those in red are the new areas that we would be recommending. And I'm bringing forward a motion. My motion is that I move that we approve the legislative proposal and direct staff to work with the administrative committee to seek an author to carry a bill that would amend Business and Professions Code, Section 2786, to authorize the board to place a temporary moratorium on nursing school approvals and expansions to address registered nursing student clinical displacement. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, now I open this discussion. Is there any further board discussion at this time? Then I'd like to have public comments. And if you would please come forward and identify yourself. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Judy Corliss, prior board member.
Please move forward so that we can make sure to hear you
You might
on the
have to
mic.
turn the microphone on.
And turn it on.
It's on with green here. Can everybody hear me? Judy
Can everybody in the back hear her? Are we okay? All right. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you for letting me speak this morning.
Excuse me, could you repeat your name and?
Oh, Judy Corliss. I'm a prior board member of this board. In fact, this is the room we always met in, so it brings back good memories. I'd like to comment on this, but first I would like to commend the board for wanting to get to the root cause of any of the problems that face our nursing students today. The first thing I'd like to say is I think it's a little bit premature to enact legislation. We have conflicting information on a lot of the clinical sites. That's one point. I have 9 hospitals in Southern California that I've personally talked to that have not been a part of the discussion. And I'd like to see that we do what we did back when I was on the board. We had a proposal to mandate WASC for everyone. Well, since we didn't have all the stakeholders to speak, we had 4 town hall meetings across the state so that everybody could give their input as to the problems and maybe help spread information and come up with some solutions themselves without legislation. The hospitals have particularly told me that they have not displaced anyone, and they have to fold in BSN students into their group as well as ADN to keep their pipeline of nurses coming down. And those are magnet hospitals particularly. So that's one point. So if we could have town halls across the state on a rotating basis, we did it with the WASC, and they came up with the idea that the board was not, their job was not to mandate WASC, but to make sure that either regional or national accreditation was present. So that, of course, came into play, but they then did not vote to mandate due to the town halls and all the stakeholders coming to speak. So we might find something different with that. And with respect to nursing shortage, if you look at Dr. Joanne Spetz's report, May 2017, California is the 5th worst number of RNs per capita in the nation. So if we hold off on new schools for 3 years, that's going to be about a 10-year spread to put new nurses in addition into the system. With our population increasing and our baby boomers getting older, and we're all going to need care. And with that fact, we have started many of the colleges doing more outpatient clinical rotations and home health care. That has really increased, and as we have these committee meetings, we know that they're doing that. I sit on the Leadership Council for UCI, and that whole curriculum is changing. Their whole new nursing program is changing to have very little rotations in the hospital. But they are increasing their simulation because they were at about 10%. And so with respect to simulation and pediatrics and OB, if we could increase that simulation a little, because I don't know of a case where new grads come out of college having, and I know we're on a timeline here, new grads coming out of college would go directly to pediatrics or to OB. They would have special training. So their simulation really helps. And with the National Council's report, and I'm happy to see that they're here today, with that report, 25% or more can help relieve this clinical situation. So that is one of the things I And then I have one other point I'd like to make is if we could propose a friendly amendment to that, that any program that has submitted a letter of intent, they have spent years on trying to go forward with their program with mandates from the board, that those be exempt from being put on a moratorium. So that would be colleges that have given you a letter of intent already sent in to you to be exempt from that moratorium. So I don't know if you have any questions for me, but I feel that it's premature at this time to put legislation to across the board. The last point I would make is a couple of colleges have like 1,000 students taking the NCLEX per year. Other colleges have 30 to 60 per year. So that's a pretty big spread in making a across the board mandate that the 30 to 60 can't add 10 students per year, but a college with 1,200, has been able to do that in the past. So that's my report. Thank you so much. And do you have any questions for me?
Thank you very much for your comments. And do you have these written out so that you could give a copy of those to us?
I will. I do not have it typed formally for all of you because I thought in the comment section I did not have to, but I will get it to you.
That would be
I'll send
nice.
it to the assistant executive officer.
Very good.
Who are you currently working for?
Right at the moment, I'm working for a college that has presented a letter of intent.
Who are they?
And that's Arizona College.
Okay.
And they would like to start. But other than that, I'm not working for any other schools.
Okay.
I am a consultant for colleges, and I sit on the board at UCI for the leadership team for any changes that they may have with things that come out of the board and recommendations that you make back to them.
So Arizona, a school in another state, is interested in opening up a program here?
Yes.
That's who you're working for? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I'm not here speaking on behalf of them, but I am speaking on behalf. I know there are a few other colleges that have expressed a concern that they've already given a letter of intent, and they would like to be exempt from that if possible because they've already put a lot into their infrastructure, which the board requires them to do before even sending in that letter of intent. 3 years would make, they've leased buildings and, started buying simulation equipment and all that type of thing. So that would put them quite a ways down the road of ever graduating a student.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any other public comment? And while somebody's coming up to the front, just a comment of clarification of information. If there's when legislation is put forward, there's always amendments and input and changes that are made. So a motion today would not mean that some other things couldn't happen later down the road.
What's the amount of time that you're allowing for speakers, Madam
5
Chair?
minutes per speaker.
Okay.
Yes, please introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Alice Matanagara, State Director of California for Western Governors University. We oppose the board's proposed moratorium language and respectfully request that you withdraw this initiative from consideration and work with the nursing program community to address perceived issues, what we call clinical displacement. We at WGU would be interested in partnering with you on this effort. We support instead a collaborative regional approach to clinical placement planning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Pat McFarland, and I'm the CEO Emeritus as of last Friday with the Association of California Nurse Leaders, the California Student Nursing Association, the California Association for Colleges of Nursing. And so I've sort of been having this debate in my head because in knowing what we need for students, we need excellent clinical experiences to ensure when they graduate they have the skill set to enter the workforce. And then I have the deans and the directors that are really required to prepare that, and then the hospital leaders that actually have to create this. And so with the three groups, really at the end of the day, it's about collaboration, cooperation, and communication. And that's what we need to do with this. And I think that there's an opportunity for us, and jumping ahead with the language at this point, and I appreciate Ms. Gerber's comments because I think you've done a thorough review, but we still don't have the basic data. We don't have the response from the field knowing how deep this displacement occurs. And I think the fact that it's continued since 2010 is reflective of our changing environment. You know, with Obamacare coming in and other things and moving to one of wellness, we've seen less patients in our acute care hospitals, although this winter they've certainly been impacted. But we have to find other arenas for our students. So what I would ask, though, is that we hold off on any language until we're able to get the data back from the schools. As Dr. Morris said, he is going to resend that information. The second part of it is Dr. Morris has been very open with us at ACNL and CACN to say we need to get more information from the hospital side. And so we've been working with him, encouraging him to also send a survey to the hospitals and other providers of clinical experience to see how deep it's been. And then to, as a group, sit back. As a professional group, we're responsible for the discipline of nursing. If we could work together on this issue for a short-term plan and a long-term plan, because our environment is going to continue to change. So I think what we need is a good foundation with data. We need to understand that we have to prepare students today that are going to be registered nurses in the future, so they have to have a different skill set. We have to capitalize on different arenas for practice, and we need to do this together. And I think collectively and collaboratively, working as a group across the state and then working in specific regions, because each region of the state is different, we can come up with a reliable solution for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Morning. My name is Scott Casanova. I'm Vice President of Government Affairs for West Coast University, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all this morning. West Coast University opposes the notion out of this issue. RN's mission statement notes that the board is designed to protect and advocate for the health and safety of the public by ensuring the highest quality of registered nurses in the state of California. The proposed legislation is contrary to the board's very mission in that it's not designed to create the highest quality of registered nurses in the state, but rather it attempts to force equal protection of clinical relations regardless of the quality of education and the needs of the various clinical partners. While reasonable minds might differ or disagree about the number of nurses that we have or need in this state, the U.S. Bureau of Health Workforce forecast RN demands in the state of California in the year of 2025 to be 393,600, which is 23% higher than the forecasted supply of 319,000 nurses. Indeed, California's nurse-to-population ratio has ranked a dismal 48 in the nation over the past 10 years. The Nurse Workforce Report Card gave California's RN supply a D grade and projects that by 2030 we'll be more than 193,000 nurses short of our nursing needs. Proposed legislation only serves to reduce the number of nurses for the state of California, a state that desperately needs high-quality registered nurses. Moreover, based on the Future of Nursing report, California is working towards a goal of 80% of nurses in the workforce having a BSN or higher by 2020. This proposed legislation makes that goal challenging at best and impossible at worst. Policymakers should be cautioned that legislation that reduces the number of RN graduates that have the danger of creating a severe shortage of registered nurses in the state of California. And although this isn't really the appropriate forum to explore the legal depths of the proposed legislation, West Coast University feels strongly that the language provided is an illegal restraint of trade that interferes with free market considerations and may run afoul of both the Sherman Antitrust Act and certain due process considerations. Accordingly, West Coast University believes that this legislation as proposed would not withstand legal scrutiny. And to echo a lot of the previous speakers' comments, rather than solving the clinical nurse education issue through legislation, we believe that that would only exacerbate an existing problem. And we believe that there is an off-ramp to this discussion that we're headed down that would probably create bad policy for both the BRN and the state of California. And as the CACN and ACNL have advocated in the past and here today, there has to be a collaborative approach towards clinical displacement. The need for a cooperative versus legislative approach for problem solving on this issue seems much more pragmatic than legislation. One such solution, as other speakers have noted, would be to decrease the percentage of direct care required to allow for simulation lab up to 50% of the clinical time. This would provide immediate relief for the high demand for clinical partners. Simply said, solving the complex issue of clinical displacement will require all partners, including schools, hospitals, and the BRN, working together to come up with a creative solution of joint voices.
Thank you very much. Yes, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. I'm Robin Nelson. I'm the Dean of the College of Nursing for West Coast University, but as important, I'm a member of the Nursing Education Workforce Advisory Committee, and I wanted to just oppose the legislative approach to this and ask that we go with the recommendation of Dr. Morris to wait for the survey data to come back, because the survey that's going to be sent out includes a deeper dive into the consortium approach to clinical placement. And I believe that that is a very collaborative approach to solving this problem. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Joanne Spetz. I'm at University of California, San Francisco, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the university, but as a researcher.
Thank you.
Since my research was mentioned, I figure I should clarify what is in my own report.
Thank you for being here today. That's very helpful.
My pleasure. And I'm happy to take any questions. So California is indeed ranked about number 45 or 46 in the country in nurses per capita. That is better than we used to be when we were number 49 or 50 for many years. I think that that data point is misleading in that it says nothing about what our population need for health services is. We have a younger population than many other states. We have a high rate of managed care penetration, lower hospitalization rates, and so on, which means simply looking at RNs per capita doesn't tell the whole story. The most recent forecasts that we did for the board under contract indicate, as they have for the past several years, that graduating about 11,000 nurses a year keeps us on a pathway towards increasing our nurse-to-population ratio over time and approaching what our projected need is. The latest forecasts from the federal government, which were published, I believe, in 2017 or late 2016, are a little bit different. They would project that we are about probably 40,000 nurses short by 2030. When we're looking at different forecasts that are basically within 10% of each other over a 15-year period, I view that as a wash. There are other forecasts that have come out from different teams that suggest we might be on a path to a slight surplus. Others say a tiny shortage. I would say we're in pretty good shape there. Now, that is not to say that there is not a lot of room for debate about where our educational programs are, because many nurses work where they graduated from, or that there are questions about whether we are preparing nurses for outpatient roles and all of those other things. I am agnostic about those debates. I think there's a lot of room for that discussion, and the data I presented don't speak to that. But with respect to whether we have a shortage in California brewing, I do not see evidence of that in any of the data that I have looked at.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your giving additional input. Hello.
My name is Dr. Diane Pestalacci, and I am the Dean of Health Sciences and Human Services at Saddleback Community College and the Director of Nursing there. I am here before you as a representative of the Orange County Associate Degree Nursing Directors, as well as the California Organization of Associate Degree Nursing. First of all, thank you for moving forward to seek legislation to prevent clinical displacement. The California Organization of Associate Degree Nursing Directors, which represents 64% of all pre-licensure registered nursing programs in California and produces approximately 50% of the registered nursing workforce in California, support legislation that authorizes the board to place a temporary moratorium on nursing school approvals and expansions to address nursing student clinical displacement. In November, we, the Orange County Public Community College Nursing Directors, came to the BRN meeting in response to proposed clinical displacement at the primary pediatric hospital in Orange County. Since that time, we have met with the Chief Nursing Officer. This meeting was made possible as a result of Dr. Morris's recommendation to the CNO of that pediatric facility. The primary concern from the facility's perspective was decreasing the burden on staff due to overcrowding of students. The primary concern from the educator's perspective was maintaining clinical placements that would allow associate degree nursing students an opportunity for an uninterrupted quality education. As a result of that meeting and subsequent written dialogue, the CNO's questions related to the number of students, clinical days per school, BRN and education code requirements, curriculum, and curricular changes were all answered. Finally, the ADN directors presented a compromise to that CNO that was accepted. The CNO then attended the local consortium to explain the facility's concerns related to the burden of students on their staff. The CNO also reiterated that the decrease in ADN student clinical days was only the beginning, and that they would be working with all their academic partners to decrease the staff burden due to overcrowding with students. Although clinical displacement was preserved after compromise at the primary pediatric facility in Orange County, significant clinical displacement and numerous rejections have been issued since this January for the 2018-2019 academic year. Nursing programs that have clinical placements in local hospitals and healthcare facilities for more than 40 years have been displaced by new and expanding programs. These are the same new and expanding programs that we all wrote letters to the BRN about in the past year and described our potential displacement concerns should their approval and growth be allowed. Despite measures taken to date by the BRN and regional consortium and collaborative agreements, clinical displacement continues and is more widespread than ever before. Thank you for discussing and potentially voting to authorize a moratorium on nursing school approvals and the expansion of programs in order to address student clinical displacement. A moratorium would ensure a nursing workforce that meets the needs of the state, while at the same time prevent clinical displacement of students from well-established, high-performing associate degree nursing programs. A moratorium will preserve access for socioeconomically underserved and culturally and ethnically diverse students who seek a quality, affordable, pre-licensure registered nursing education and ultimately careers as registered nurses and an opportunity for social mobility. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Sandra Melton. I'm the program director for the School of Nursing, Ventura College, and I also am the president of the Organization of Associate Degree Nursing Deans and Directors for the South. I wish to provide evidence that there are associate degree nursing programs that are being displaced in Los Angeles. I am speaking for the 6 associate degree programs, 5 public and 1 private, that also received a letter from a large pediatric facility in Los Angeles that they would no longer be accepting associate degree nursing students effective June 2018. I have handouts for you, which I guess we'll do later. That represents a SBAR report from that facility. And in their assessment, the facility states that many of their nurses are stressed by having too many students. Managers feel that they are only hiring bachelor-prepared nurses, and so that it seems reasonable to eliminate ADN students. First, to decrease the burden of students on the floors, and also because the pipeline to hiring new grads, if they hire only BSN, then they only would like BSN students in their facility. The colleges were able to meet with the facility and were able to agree on an extension of the deadline from June 2018 to July 2019 that would eliminate the ADN rotations at the pediatric facility. For some programs, this would affect 50 to 100% of the pediatric rotations for these colleges. We are requesting that the board support this moratorium to preserve access to clinical placements for our associate degree nursing students who have enrolled in associate degree programs because they're affordable. They reside in the community where the student lives and will continue to work. The students represent a diverse, and I want to emphasize diverse, socioeconomically disadvantaged populations, where many of them are first in their family to attend college. We are asking for the opportunity for a level playing field so that we can continue to provide this diverse nursing workforce in California. The moratorium would provide time and, most importantly, immediate relief for the colleges to come together to work toward a collaborative solution, which my colleague, Dr. Baker, will address shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please, you can just put it at the end of the table and they'll hand it around to us. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Becky Miller, the Associate Dean of Health Sciences and the Director of the Nursing Program at Santa Ana College. Students in Santa Ana College's nursing program were surveyed regarding their desire and preparation to pursue a baccalaureate degree during or following the associate degree in nursing program.
Just for clarification, so you're an associate degree program, but you're doing this for going on.
Correct, correct. 197 of the 198 enrolled students at Santa Ana College responded to the survey. I missed one. My students are 78% socioeconomically disadvantaged and receiving assistance of some type. 74% are female, 26% are male. Ages range between 20 and 56, with 93% between 21 and 40. 37% are Hispanic, 26% are Caucasian, 22% Asian, 10% Filipino, 3% African American, 2% other, for a total non-Caucasian percentage of 74%. 3% of my students are currently eligible to enter a baccalaureate program. Of those 63%, 70% are in a baccalaureate program or plan to enroll while in the Santa Ana College Associate Degree in Nursing program. 100% of the Santa Ana College nursing students responded that they would be continuing their education following graduation into a baccalaureate or a master's degree program. Hypothetical questions were asked to determine if the requirement to become a registered nurse changed, what would happen? What if a baccalaureate degree was required within 10 years of their associate's degree? Would they pursue becoming a registered nurse? 98.5% of my students responded yes. What if a baccalaureate degree was required in order to become a registered nurse? Would they pursue becoming a registered nurse? 97.5% responded yes, but with comments that it would take longer due to costs. My students are in an associate degree nursing program, socioeconomically disadvantaged and very diverse. Completing their ADN and becoming a registered nurse will change their lives. It will change the lives of their families. My students will continue their education, and they are not unique ADN students. Clinical placement is being based on the education level of the students in an ADN program. Thinking they will not pursue a baccalaureate or master's degree is erroneous. My students have been displaced. The number of days they are allowed in a hospital, the number of units they can be on, complete rejection from a hospital, and the number of students in the hospital at a time. They've been displaced. Assistance needed from the Board of Registered Nursing to ensure high-quality clinical placement for students in associate degree nursing. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Morning. I'm Dr. Sandy Baker. I'm the Dean of Riverside City College. We're the second largest associate degree program in the state of California. We graduate about 200 annually. And of those 200, at the time of graduation, 62% of them are already enrolled in baccalaureate programs at the time that they graduate from my college. I'm here to express support for the board to be given the ability to impose a moratorium or limit enrollments as needed. And I would also like to suggest a suggestion or a solution to the issue. All of us, associate degree educators as well as baccalaureate educators, we agree that our graduates need to get their baccalaureate degrees. The issue in California is that many times it's either not affordable or it's difficult for them to do so. And there are solutions that virtually all of the states surrounding California have found to this problem, and that is concurrent enrollment programs. And I would like to suggest that the board encourage and incentivize concurrent enrollment programs. In these programs, the financial aid is generally held by the university. Students take concurrently a course at the associate degree level, and they take a 2 to 3 unit course concurrently at the baccalaureate level. This could be a private institution or a public institution, by the way. In many states, such as Arizona, they have the associate degree students enter the associate degree program. They simultaneously enter the baccalaureate program. The baccalaureate institution holds the financial aid for the students so that they can get all of their education paid for through that financial aid, and they are able at the time that they graduate with their associate degree to get their bachelor's degree either simultaneously with their associate degree or within one semester. There are several ways that this is accomplished. One way this is accomplished is through limitation on units at the associate degree level. And I would tell you that the associate degree directors are in favor of that. They would be in agreement with limiting their enrollment to the required mandated BRN 36 to 38 units, say, of nursing curriculum. This would then allow them to complete their associate degree in a timely fashion and be able to take the courses necessary for them to be able to be concurrently enrolled in a bachelor's program, such as the chemistry and the statistics, etc. This is what they do in other states. So they would enter the associate degree program, they would have statistics, they would be ready for their bachelor's degree. They would be concurrently enrolled in a bachelor's program. They would take classes concurrently as well as in the intersession or the summer session, and then they would be able to complete within one semester at the most. This is also accomplished because in those other states, the ADN to BSN curriculum is generally limited to around 30 units. And so right now, as I'm sure the board is aware, the unit requirement varies greatly. And so if we had these types of collaborative relationships that the board was in favor of and supported, we would see that number of bachelor's prepared nurses affordably increase in the state of California so that we can have that diverse working nurse force in California that I know the board supports. The Cal State also has an interesting ability to do what's called cross-enrollment. It's already there on the books in the Ed Code, and in that fashion, they can take a course at the Cal State while they're enrolled in an associate degree program for 10 units for $10, as little as $10 for a class, with a memorandum of understanding between the institutions. And so I would just like to say that there are many solutions that can be done other than allowing out-of-state private expensive programs come into the state of California, which our population, the ones that are served by my institution, cannot afford that student debt of that magnitude. There are other ways that other states have solved this problem, and I would suggest that the board look at some of those ways, such as limitation of enrollment. Incentivizing national accreditation is something else that other states have done to improve quality of education, such as by, I've said this to Dr. Morris, so I can just say it now. If you would have national accredited programs, then perhaps you would not visit them as frequently, or in some states not even at all. Or simultaneously, you would do visits at the same time that they're getting their national accreditation visits. So you see, there's all kinds of solutions that the board could consider that would move us towards this collaborative model that is seen in Arizona, Oregon, the state of Washington, New Mexico, amongst a few. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
And I have some handouts to show you
excellent.
how, handouts to show you how this could happen. I have Arizona's model in here, and I also have a proposed curriculum model. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Abdul Yusuf, I'm the Chief Academic Officer for Unity College. And I would like to say that moving with legislations, I believe it's too early in, because there are some facts that we have on the table that contradicting and or maybe was not fully considered. One of the facts is the nursing shortage. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services report in 2017, RN shortage will be in 7 states, and number 1 state will have California, with 44,500 full-time by 2030. So that's about the nursing shortage. Another fact that we need to look into or consider is the simulation. According to the NCSBN study conducted last year, it says up to 50% simulation, and that did not show any statistically significant difference in the safety and competency of the nurses graduating from a program that has 50% versus 30 or 20 or no simulation. So we need to consider that. The last point I want to make, that clinical facility must have a huge say in this, because if the clinical facilities in all these regions are not well involved in this dialogue and saying why we have this displacement, is that because of expansion of new program, or is that because of the hospital preference of certain quality or certain level of degree? That should be considered, because that's purely because of another program, or that's because of other factors involved. The other thing also I want to mention, that in a lot of the program that has only 30 student spots, they have thousands of applicants. And the board, the report shows that we turn about 53% of the applicant in the year 15-16 that qualified applicant, but we don't accept them because of the seats limited. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just one question. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name of the school you were representing.
Unitec College.
Unitec.
Abdul Yusuf. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm generally loud, so the microphone may not be needed. My name is Joni Reed. I am the president and owner of Blake Austin College in Vacaville, God's country. I just saw the proposed language this morning. We've been attending the meetings for several months now. We're in the middle of feasibility. So to see the moratorium after waiting for a moratorium to be lifted years ago was a bit disheartening for us. I have owned my school. I started it with me and a receptionist 22 years ago. I am an owner-operator. We run a allied health, medical, dental, nursing we work with the BVNPT. And we've successfully run our VN program for 14 years. It is now time for us to move into the RN. We just finished our renewal on our accreditation in October. My staff and I, it's been on my strategic plan for a long time. I am on campus every single day. I can tell you the proposed material regulatory language is, it feels somewhat discriminatory. In my neck of the woods where my population is, I am not Orange County in Los Angeles and impacted is greatly. I do have my struggles with RN programs, and it's just kind of the way it goes. you've got to learn how to shift and go find another place so that you can get your students serviced. At the same time, if you're only allowed so many students in as acceptance, that's all you can place, and you damn sure better be able to make sure you have clinical placements for it. I'm sure I have a lot of people who maybe don't agree with me here, but we work really hard. We have a good quality program. It is time for us to move forward. We've been asked by our clinical partners, which are not at the table. These are private hospitals and institutions that make the decisions of whether or not we get in. I can't help it that Department of Corrections likes my graduates better than others. And I will continue to do what I can to be competitive against other schools all day long, whether it's community college, private, for-profit. It's what I got into this for. I know I'm here to help people. I take damn good care of my students, and they have to pass the bar. I am on campus every single day. And so for there to be restricted based on a demographic or geographic location, whether you decide some other school could come in and I can't take that as any other way except a discriminatory type language. So I lay my cards on the table. I ask for a fair shake. I want the opportunity to provide my nursing program. I've got 14 years of graduates that keep saying, when are you going to start your program? I love Blake Austin. I want to come back to Blake Austin. So I can't, with another moratorium, I can't delay that and shift gears and do something else. I live in my community. I've been there for 30 years. My students have taken care of me through 2 times stage 4 cancer. So it is personal. So to restrict this opportunity for them, for the college, means the 75 employees that I have working for me, I get to tell them, sorry guys, it's not there again. So we're in a good place. We want to move forward. I don't think that clinical displacement needs to be resolved. I don't think this is the language for it. And I was taught a long time ago, you can't graft a new idea on a closed mind. I think there's a better way with more information. Because if you go sit down and talk to the CEOs and the other people at the hospitals, they want to help. They do want to help, but they have other information, and so do school owners that that we could help in ways that might be more useful. And I look forward to working with this board. I am respected at the BVNPT. Ms. Cheryl Anderson knows me from the very first nursing director that I hired to the one I currently have. And what she knows is I understand my regulating body as a regulating body. And I do what I need to be compliant and to do a damn good job. Because at any time you might walk in my door and I need to pass muster. So, and ultimately, these students draw my blood. They do all the other inspections. So, you know, it's my community I serve, whether people think it's about schools trying to do something else because they're a private, money-making, money-hungry. We're really
We understand.
not.
Thank you very much for your comment. We do appreciate it very much. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to come forward?
Good morning. My name is Katie Skelton, and I am a chief nursing officer from Southern California, so from academia. I've been a CNO for 24 years, and my background of being a nurse recruiter for many years, and I'm also a magnet appraiser for the last 10 years, kind of informs my, my feedback on this. What I would like to propose is service and academia developing guidelines together. There are consortiums all over the state. They know it best because they are local. They've got relationships. And I believe that if service and academia and the right people from service and academia come together, that will be the most effective way rather than legislation. We need guiding principles and collaboration. I think we've gotten a little bit off track, and a few people mentioned it before, that potentially from service, the right people aren't sitting at the table. I think some of the decisions that have led to our current problem is that a lot of this has been delegated to, let's say, a director of education, and not the person responsible for the ultimate clinical practice of the nurses in that organization. I believe the CNOs need to be pulled together with consortium, with academia to solve this problem. I come from a community hospital, and I am committed. I really believe we need to hire not for what degree a person has right out of the chute, but we need to hire for values. We also need to hire people, nurses that reflect our communities. And so I have been one of the few hospitals that have said, no, I'm not, okay, we're a magnet hospital. I understand magnet, but we're going to hire the right people who we can grow and we can develop professionally that will reflect the community. And so we have enacted that, yes, we hire for values, we hire ADNs, and we require that within 2 years they have to have their bachelor's degrees. And they're thrilled, and it works. And we are successfully moving up to the, we're not at 80% BSN yet, but I don't worry about that. I think organizations sometimes get a mistaken message on what the magnet message is. You need to show improvement. You need to be showing progress toward the IOM recommendation of 80%. And I think there are many ways to do that. Finally, I do believe that service and academia coming together and the right leaders from each side to devise guiding principles that we can work this out collaboratively without using legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello.
Hi. This is Alice Matanagara. I made a comment earlier on behalf of Western Governors University. However, today I'd like to make a comment on behalf of the American Nurses Association for California. While ANAC appreciates the BRN efforts to solve the issue of clinical displacement, it is also important to realize that the issue that started this public journey has been solved by appropriate stakeholders, affected education institutions, and hospitals. ANAC is very concerned about parts of the language, and we ask, how will the BRN decide what specified circumstance mean before it enact a moratorium? Number two, how will the BRN decide what negatively impacted mean? Does it mean weekends? Does it mean evenings? Does it mean night shifts? Or when a school does not like the slots that they've been given? Number three, how will the BRN decide what is priority? Who will be given priority? Who will be monitoring hospitals, how they make their decisions? Shouldn't a hospital have the right to decide who will they host in their institution, and shouldn't the education institution decide to collaborate with such hospitals? Number four, what should the level of impaction for the BRN be to institute moratorium? And number five, if there are no impacted regions, shouldn't setting up a new clinical be fine? We also believe legislation efforts at this time is very premature, and we support our coalition partners at the Quad Council and support Pat McFarland's remarks earlier. ANAC is here to work with the BRN and our coalition partners with this issue of so-called clinical displacement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other comments, please?
Good morning. My name is Robert Johnson. I am the Executive Director to the California Association of Private Post-Secondary Schools, CAPS. We are an association that's been around since 1985. We include in our membership a number of allied health schools. I will confess, I am not an allied health professional, so not qualified to talk about all that. But as an attorney, I've spent 20 years working in the state legislature, representing our sector. And I will say that in looking at this proposed legislation, it's not going to work. And I will just let you know that it seems, and I want you to know that I don't think it will work, but I don't think it, even if it passed, it would work. I think the problem with that is that I do spend time talking to hospital administrators and administrations, and the decision over their sites and how they award those sites is really unique to each each business. There is no, from what I've seen in my years of looking at how hospitals fill extra sites, and how my schools have complained to me about how they were shut out by community colleges or whatever at the time. It was really a decision internally made by that hospital or that site as to who they choose to work with. And I understand, because I understand what your motivation is, because ultimately in my career, I've worked with a number of boards and commissions at the Department of Consumer Affairs. I think there's 80 of those. We've worked with many of those over the years. And on occasion, there is an overreach. And there's an overreach often based on good intentions, but really lack of reality. And I think part of that is that boards and commissions, particularly in the allied health fields, I have to admit, are so bubbled and they're so into what they're doing that they often don't step back and look at how they exist in the real world. And the reality of it is that you're looking at supply and demand. You have a limited supply of externship sites and sites that you want to place increasingly demand students into these sites. This legislation basically indirectly tries to essentially impose controls on the number of people from schools that get into various sites, and I guess part of that is figuring out how you can basically allocate AA slots versus BA slots to those. And there is a sense of entitlement that comes through in this testimony and this legislation that we are entitled to control how many sites come into what hospitals. And from a business standpoint, I can tell you, you don't. As I don't when I try to convince my members that they wanted to take some kind of political action or some kind of administrative action for their students being shut out of sites. It is a business decision that is made, but not by state regulators. I just want to say also, and I'll switch to the politics of the situation, is that there are economic benefit legislation introduced every year. Legislature sees about 2,000 bills every year. Many of those basically benefit a specific group or person. This kind of smacks of trade protectionism in probably some of the not very, very good form. The reality of it is that to take authority from the state, put it in the back office, and allow a staff person to decide who gets to go where and what region is affected and what school can do it or can't do it with no due process, no published criteria, no open and disinfectant sunlight shown on the process is not right. It's not the way you do government. And it's not the way I think California works when it works well. So I would certainly argue to you that if this legislation goes through or this proposed language goes through, we will strongly oppose it. In working with the legislature, I can say that I think a lot of people do not have your expertise. And they're going to look at this bill and say who benefits, who runs it, and what's the result at the end. And if you're going to argue that we don't need nurses and we can control these slots, I don't think that's a winner. And I think that's a mountain you're probably going to die on. So I would recommend that if you want to, and you seem like you have some fine brains in this audience that seem to have thought this thing through, there seem to be some kind of solutions for, alternative routes. I will wrap that up, my friend.
Thank you.
Yes, and I urge you to go that route because this will be a fight. We don't know if we'll win, but it will be a big fight, and I'm not sure it's going to reflect well on you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments?
Madam Chair, I call for the question.
All right. So we'll take a vote on calling for the question. All in favor?
Jackson votes yes.
Okay.
Elizabeth Wood, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Dela Cruz Reyes, no.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Okay. So it's passed to call for the question, so now we vote in the main motion.
Michael Jackson votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
You don't need a vote on calling the question. But
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, you do actually.
Yeah, I took a vote.
You need to.
Well, I'm calling the question. It's a non-debatable vote. And so we took a vote on calling the question. Now we're coming back to my motion. It was moved and seconded. And now we're taking a vote on my motion. Do you need it reread, or are you clear on the motion?
I'm clear on the motion.
Okay, then we're taking the vote. So I'll start again. So on the motion, I'd like to take a vote.
Yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Pilar Dela Cruz Reyes, no.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Okay, so that would be the end of item number 6.2. And I'd now like to take a 10-minute break, and then we'll resume the meeting. Thank you all very much. And if you would allow the board members to use the restroom, please, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. All right. We're back from our break now, and we need to go into item 6.3 on the agenda, which is discuss and possible vote to seek a regulatory change to modify California Code of Regulations, Article 5, Section 1456, Continuing Education Courses. And if you look down on the materials that were attached, you will see that there's some a new language. Items number D that we're well, we have our language, and then we're proposing some additional language to be included. And just some history on this is that the Administrative Committee has been going through a process of looking at some potential regulatory changes to address experimental or treatments or procedures. So I'm bringing forward a motion. And my motion is I move that we improve the proposed language to amend California Code of Regulations, Article 5, Section 1456, direct staff to commence the regular rulemaking process and delegate the authority to the executive officer to make any non-substantive changes and to take all steps necessary to complete the rulemaking file. And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. Do I have any board comment? Do I have any public comment? If so, please come forward and identify yourself. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Time limit on the public comment.
Will be 5 minutes per person. And if you will continue to do the time.
Per person or per group if they're under the same?
If it's a group and the group is going to repeat the same information, then just one person from the group, and then the other people, if they want to affirm that, can or can. But we're not going to have the whole group each speaking 5 minutes, because that'd be 20 minutes. That wouldn't be right. If just in case you were all from the same group, but you're probably not. Okay, so the first person that was up, I don't know if they are or not because they haven't introduced themselves. But we will just have one comment per group, and then we'll go on to the next comment. And so if whoever is first up would introduce themselves. Thank you.
Good morning. Maya Ingram, Legislative Attorney for the ACLU of California. The ACLU of California is a collaboration of all 3 affiliates in the state, with members in more than 300,000 working to protect the civil rights and civil liberties of all Californians. The ACLU of California appreciates the Board of Registered Nursing's consideration and discussion of regulatory changes regarding the continuing education courses. We support Californians' access to quality, medically sound healthcare services. Because continuing education courses help shape the quality of care delivered by nurses throughout this state, it is of critical importance that these courses teach procedures and treatments that are generally accepted as effective by the medical community. The The ACLU has concerns that courses that do not meet such criteria will endanger patient safety and the quality of care in this state. We encourage the BRN to adopt regulations that protect all patients, including vulnerable patients seeking the most sensitive healthcare services. Thank you. And
Thank you very much. And you're submitting a letter. Thank you so much. Hi. Thank
Good
you.
morning. My name is Wing K. Falk, and I am a physician at Stanford University.
Could you please move a little closer to the mic? We want to make sure everybody hears your comments.
Okay. In addition to being, in addition to my clinical role, of course, my name is Wing K. Falk, and I am a physician at Stanford University. So in addition to my clinical role as a physician, I'm also highly involved in education and training. I teach my students that the biggest assets we have as medical professionals is the trust our patients have in us. They expect us to provide them with evidence-based information that has withstood rigorous scientific examination, and we are responsible to care for them using best practice guidelines. The minute we stray from this, we risk losing their trust and we fracture the integrity of the medical profession. It is therefore crucial to adhere to best practice at every level, and this includes the information we teach to our trainees, as those are the most impressionable amongst us. I believe it is important for California nurses to be well informed about all issues facing our patients, including undesired pregnancy and abortion. When issues that are politically divisive are addressed, the highest level of scientific rigor must be brought to bear in order to maintain the trust and the confidence in our community. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Hello.
My name is Natasha Schimmeler, and I'm an OBGYN physician at UC Davis Medical Center. Oh, yeah, sorry. I also train on the East Coast, hence the fast talking.
When you're reading comments, and I know from experience, it's very easy to talk too fast, so try to pace yourself so we hear what you say.
So my name is Natasha Schimmeler. I'm an OBGYN physician at UC Davis Medical Center. I also have UC Davis Medical Center, right, local here. I also have additional training in bioethics, and I also serve as an active clinical researcher and a peer reviewer for a major medical journal. Caring for patients is a true privilege for all healthcare providers. We have the power to significantly influence the lives of those we care for, especially in their most vulnerable times. With this privilege comes the responsibility to ensure that the care we provide has been thoroughly evaluated by well-established scientific methods in an ethical manner. Authoritative organizations such as the Board of Registered Nursing is very valuable in keeping patients safe and maintaining a workforce of skilled providers, especially as medical science continues to rapidly expand. Misleading patients with unsubstantiated claims can cause significant harm to their health and damage the trust in all of us as healthcare providers. As a proud recipient of licensure in the state of California, I support the board in their work to ensure that the CME they endorse propagates the high quality of care that we as all healthcare providers strive to provide to our patients. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi there. I'm Eleanor Schwartz. I'm on the faculty at the University of California, Davis. I have comments on behalf of a colleague from the Betty Irene Moore School of Nursing who could not be here today, and then also a statement of my own. I can submit these in writing to you. I can also read them out loud. I'm open to your guidance in terms of what you would like me to do. Let me introduce myself first. I'm a board-certified internist practicing both inpatient and outpatient medicine. I'm a regular frontline witness to the critical importance of well-trained, up-to-date nurses in ensuring high-quality patient care. I'm here today to strongly encourage you to use rigorous criteria to ensure that continuing education programs for nurses are evidence-based and clearly identify any experimental treatments or off-label use of medications that may be discussed during an educational program. It's imperative that all potential conflicts of interest, whether due to industry funding or association with special interest groups, are fully disclosed and minimized. As a tenured professor at the University of California who teaches nursing students as well as medical students and graduate students, I appreciate the effort it takes to confirm that educational materials are peer-reviewed and reflect the current state of science. Thank you for your commitment to safeguarding our patients' trust that their nurses adhere to the highest professional standards. So that's from me. And then from Dr. Jerry Bigby. Dear colleagues, I'm writing in support of your careful consideration of the criteria for approval of continuing education programs for nurses, particularly related to experimental and controversial treatments. As a nurse clinician, researcher, and educator, I feel it is imperative that our profession continues to promote the highest level of evidence-based practice to ensure quality and safe care. That practice must be based on education that reflects current standards, ethics, and research. The current ANA Code of Ethics for Nurses, 2015, addresses the critical role nurses play in the protection of human subjects in research. In particular, the code states that patients' and participants' welfare may never be sacrificed for research ends, Section 7.1. Unfortunately, we know that some nurses have historically been involved in unethical research that has violated the rights of human subjects. This unprofessional conduct may have been due to the inadequate education regarding nursing ethics related to research and experimental treatment. Given these ethical and professional considerations, I urge you to maintain the highest standards in the approval of continuing education programs. Sincerely, Dr. Jerry L. Bigby, professor in the Betty Irene Moore School of Nursing.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments if the public would like to make? Please, if so, please come forward.
Hi.
Oh, there you go. Hi.
Hi, we did a little bit of a seat change here.
Now I noticed that. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Maggie Krell. I'm Chief Legal Counsel for Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California. Together, Planned Parenthood in California sees about 1.5 million patients a year and represents about 115 health clinics. And our focus is quality care and best practices. For that reason, I'd urge the board to clarify Article 5, Section 1456. While we'd submit that under current law, untested techniques are contrary to the regulations, the proposed language would unambiguously prevent the dissemination of untested and potentially harmful techniques under the guise that they are scientifically valid. This is critical for our patients and for all patients as it impacts not just access to care, but access to accurate information about health options. Thank you so much for your consideration, and I also agree with the other points that my colleagues raised.
Thank you. Are there any other people that would like to come forward with public comment? Please come forward now. Okay, see no more public comment. Is there any board comment? Okay, are we ready to vote then? Are you clear on the motion? Board members ready to vote? Yes. Okay. Take the vote.
Michael Jackson votes yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Okay, moving on to item 6.4. I would like to defer item 6.4 right now and move it under licensing and under item 7.8. Thank you very much. So now we'll go into the 7.0, which was Report of Education and Licensing Committee by Mr. Jackson.
Thank you very much. I'm Michael Jackson, Chair of the Education Licensing Committee. We'll ask the staff to please introduce herself.
Hello. Morning. I'm Dr. Carol Pellis. I'm a nursing education consultant.
Can I hear you?
Use that other microphone.
Okay. How's that? Is that better? Oh. Okay. I'm Dr. Carol Vellis. I'm a nursing education consultant for the board, and I am in Southern California, and I'm also the education and licensing liaison.
Item 7.1, vote on whether to ratify minor curriculum revisions.
Okay, according to the board policy, nursing education consultants may approve minor curriculum changes that do not significantly alter philosophy, objectives, or content. Approvals must be reported to the education and licensing and the board.
I make a motion we accept.
I second it.
Public comment. Discussion from the board. Seeing no discussion, no public comment. Michael Jackson votes yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Item 7.2, vote on whether to approve Education Licensing Committee recommendations.
The Education and Licensing Committee met on January 11th, 2018, and makes the following recommendations. 7.2, vote on whether to approve Education Licensing Committee recommendations including 7.2.1, continual approval of pre-licensure nursing programs for American University of Health Sciences Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, California State University Channel Islands Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, California State University Long Beach Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, and California State University San Bernardino Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, the Valley Foundation School of Nursing Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, Allen Hancock College Associate Degree Nursing Program, American River College Associate Degree Nursing Program, College of the Siskiyous Associate Degree Nursing Program, Long College Associate Degree Nursing Program, Santa Ana Associate Degree Nursing Program, Ventura College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
Excuse me, was that College of Sequoias, not Siskiyous?
It was College of Sequoias. 7.2.2, continue to defer continuing approval of pre-licensure nursing program at West Hills Lemoore Associate Degree Nursing Program. 7.2.3, continue approval of advanced practice nursing program, California State University Long Beach Nurse Practitioner Program. 7.2.4, approved major curriculum revision, California State University Stanislaus Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, and Porterville College Associate Degree Nursing Program. 7.2.5, defer granting initial approval for Brandman University Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program. And 7.2.6, continue to defer continual approval of pre-licensure nursing program for East Los Angeles College, and this was carried over from the November 7, 2017 board agenda. It was missed at that agenda.
I make a recommendation we accept item 7.2.1.
I second it.
Public comment. Being no public comment, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Item 7.2.2, continue to defer continual approval for pre-licensure nursing program, West Hills Lemoore Associate's Degree Program. Michael Jackson votes. Any public comment?
I second it.
Michael Jackson votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
I make a recommendation we accept item 7.2.3, continual approval of advanced practice nursing program, California State University Long Beach Nurse Practitioner Program.
I second that.
Public comment? No public comment. Michael Jackson votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Item 7.2.4, approved major curriculum revision, California State University Stanislaus Bachelor's Degree Program and Porterville College Associate's Degree Program.
I second that.
Public comment? And no public comment. Michael Jackson votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Item 7.2.5, I recuse. So we need somebody else to make that motion.
I will make the motion.
I'll second.
Public comment?
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
We were just having clarification, but what we've just done is legal. So moving on. I've moved yes. I approve yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara
Randy
Yaroslavsky, yes.
All right, we're ready to move on.
Item 7.2.6, continue to defer continual approval for pre-licensure nursing program, East Los Angeles College Associate Degree Nursing Program, and this was carried over from November 2017 board agenda. Michael Jackson votes.
We need a second. I give you a second.
Second. Any public comment? No public comment. Michael Jackson votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Item 7.3, vote on whether to continue approval of Career Care Institute Associate's Degree Nursing Program.
Okay, again, I'm Carol Bellis, Nursing Education Consultant. And to my right, I have Dr. Stevens, who is the new Program Director at Career Care Institute. Next to her is the College Director, Evelyn Orellana. And next to Evelyn is Mr. Carrasco, who is the President and sole owner of Career Care Institute. I'd like to begin with just a little bit of historical background. Am I cutting up, or can you hear me okay? With this feedback. Yeah, it's kind of driving me crazy. Do you mind if I? You hear me better here? No. Okay, a little bit of historical background. Career Care Institute is a new program. It was approved by the board in September 2017 with an initial enrollment of 32 students annually. I've worked with the program since its inception through the feasibility study as well as through the self-study and the visit to the school. Dr. Stevens actually was involved in writing the initial and the second feasibility study because this school was one of the schools that had written a letter of intent and feasibility study before the first moratorium that was stopped. So the process for this school approval has been over about a 10-year period of time. Okay, at the time the school was approved in September, Ms. Adina Free was the program director and Ms. Marissa Latuno was the assistant director. Shortly after the program was approved, Mrs. Free resigned and Mrs. Latuno took over. She had been working with Mrs. Free for 2 years and she was very qualified to take over. The program currently has 16 students enrolled in the program, and most of those are enrolled in the first term, which are general education courses. They will begin their first nursing course on March 5th. At the end of January, I was informed that Ms. Latuno was resigning, and so I explained to her that the normal process would be that the assistant director, who is Ms. Shamar Walker, would take over for her as the program director until the school found a new program director. At that point, I was told by Mrs. Latuno that Mrs. Walker was really not capable. She hadn't been on campus because she was caring for her ill father, who recently passed away. So at that point, it was brought to my attention that the program did not have an acting program director or director. So I brought it to the attention of the board, and that's why we're here today. I have to tell you, there were 3 things that were of concern to me. One was, of course, that there was no program director or assistant director. The second one was that the hiring plan that was implemented, or excuse me, that was provided to us during the self-study hadn't been implemented all the way. And so that was also concerning to me. And then the third one was that the student admission went from 32 to 16, and that had to do with financial aid and their accrediting body through Council of Occupational Ed, or COE. So we're here today. I have to tell you that in the 2 weeks that I've worked with both Dr. Stevens and Mrs. Orellana, this school has bent over backwards to find a program director, assistant director, and in fact, they've hired 3 faculty in 2-week period of time. Although the program did run into some problems, which is not uncommon for brand new programs, I do feel at this point the program has been very dedicated to implementing every action that I've required as far as finding a program director that is experienced. Dr. Stevens is very experienced running LVN programs, and she's been with this college for many, many years. Also, their assistant director is a well-known faculty in the area who will be taking over as the assistant director. They also have a full complement of faculty that are in place now for the next few terms. The next one, which is starting on March 5th, which is their fundamentals course, and they really are back on track. So I'm here today really to ask you to give them more time, to allow Dr. Stevens to acclimate to the program and to continue their hiring plan that they've implemented, and to continue with these 16 students through the program. It is anticipated that COE will grant them Title IV funding so that they can start to provide financial aid. In their next admission cycle, which is in October, they will have a full complement of 32 students. The last thing that I want to say to all of you is that when I went to the school visit in the Antelope Valley, I went to 16 different clinical sites. There's no
lack of clinical sites in that area. And the response I got from the community and the partners and the service industry was that they were very excited that this program was in their valley. There's only one other program, which is Antelope Valley Associate Degree Nursing Program. And frankly, the area needed another program, not only to continue to provide nurses for the retiring baby boomers, as we've been talking about all morning, but also because there's a big pocket of LVN students up there, some from their college as well as other colleges, that have nowhere to go unless they come off the Antelope Valley and come down into the San Fernando Valley. So again, I do recommend that we give this school more time to let Dr. Stevens get acclimated. She has spent the last week reviewing the curriculum, the admission process. I've been on the phone on a regular basis with both of these young ladies, and I do believe that they have the strength in place now to keep this program going. That concludes my report. Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions from the board members?
I have a question.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Betty.
How much time are you talking about?
What I'd like to do is I would like, and I've talked in depth with their team, is I would like for them to provide monthly progress reports to me to ensure that all of their faculty stays in place, the program director stays, and that they keep moving forward, as well as I'd like them to return to the May ELC meeting to give us a full report. So I will continue to stay very connected with them to ensure that everything that is required by regulation stays in place and that they remain compliant.
Can I ask the cost of the program?
Bottom.
Yes, the cost of the program is, and I have it in my report, the cost of the program is $82,000. I think it depends on when students come in, but it ranges from $73,300 to $76,400. Actually, they have 82. You can speak.
Total cost of the
Please
program.
introduce yourself and let us know your role.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Oriana. I am the CAO of Career Institute. So the total tuition cost of the program is $75,800. Depending on where the student comes in and all the uniform supplies, everything, it could sum up to 82. Tuition is specifically $75,800.
I have a question. You mentioned in the report that as of February 5th, a teach-out plan has not been developed. Where are we on that?
Well, we were hoping it wasn't going to come to that. When I wrote this report, it was at the very beginning of this two-week journey. On this two-week journey so far, we have gotten our program director in place, our assistant director in place, and faculty to continue with the program. So at this point, as long as we can allow this school more time to get acclimated and continue, there is not a teach-out plan. But if that is a requirement, that's something they can certainly work on.
I think that's a good idea, and I think it's a good idea because we now have students in place, right? The 16. Right. So to be on the safe side, because we've had some bad experiences recently, I would be looking for a teach-out plan, personally.
On the teach-out plan, we were discussing it yesterday, and of course our teach-out plan is going to be shortly in place. I went over all the regulations with the accreditation COE body, and they do have a teach-out plan in their accreditation process. So the teach-out plan should be in effect, or should be prepared within the next 2 weeks. We should have that.
And we should confirm that when it happens.
Yes.
Sure will. They also have BPPE accreditation right now, and so BPPE also has a teach-out plan.
Yes. How much time, simulation time, are you planning for your program?
With the simulation, we have the exact number of hours. It's not going to, like they were discussing, 50% this morning, but the simulation hours are more or less used for the The SIMS lab is used when at your fundamental students. We have some fundamental students, of course, a lot of them are LVNs, and they've come in and are challenging some of the courses. Fundamentals is one of them. They will be doing clinical skills check-offs to make sure that they're where they're supposed to be, and that most of that will be done in the simulation lab. On a regular basis, of the other students that are doing fundamentals, they will be doing simulation maybe the first few weeks, and then they go out to the clinical site because we have clinical sites for them. The remainder of the program, the skills lab is a very small portion of their training in the skills lab, because as soon as we get them acclimated to what we're teaching, then we do skills lab, and then they have clinical sites to go out to already.
And which clinical sites are you using for pediatrics?
Pediatrics is at, let's see here. What? Antelope Valley. Antelope Valley Hospital, and we have Antelope Valley Hospital. I'm looking, trying to read quickly. Antelope Valley Hospital has a big WHIP unit, which is women and children, peds, and OB. And we're using Antelope Valley Hospital, San Joaquin, and Landmark Medical Center, and ENA Riddell Johnson as our outpatient. And Antelope Valley Hospital has a great peds unit, as well as this is where we'll be doing most of our OB as well, because they have a WHIP unit for women and children. And that's like right around the corner from the school. So we've gotten approvals for them, which is one of the 2 hospitals in that area. So we already have assigned clinical site there to address these issues, as well as assigned for OB and peds. We've already gotten contracts for it.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Restate your recommendations, please.
My recommendation is to allow Career Care Institute, the new program director and assistant to the program, including the curriculum. I would also like to request monthly progress reports, including the teach out plan from both BPPE and COE, as well as having Career Care Institute return to our May Education Licensing Committee. I think March is just too soon, because they're just going to have their cohort starting the nursing program. So I think May would probably be better to see how they're doing.
So moved. Public comment?
Second.
Public comment? Being no public comment, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 7.4, vote on whether to grant initial approval for pre-licensure program for Gurnick Academy of Medical Arts Associate Degree Nursing Program.
My name is Jeanette Wackerly. I'm the Supervising Nursing Education Consultant in the Sacramento office. And to my immediate right, I'd like to introduce the Director of the program, Samantha Manislow Sanchez. And immediately to her right is Larissa, and I'd like Larissa to pronounce her last name, please. Larissa? Oh, sorry. Shall I go again? Thank you. My name is Jeanette.
Perfect. Huh? Now we can hear you. That was great.
Thank you. Jeanette Wackerly, Supervising Nursing Education Consultant from the Sacramento office. And to my immediate right, I'd like to introduce Samantha Sanchez. She is the Director of Nurses at Gurnick Academy. And to her right is Larissa, and I'm going to let her say her last name.
My last name is Revzina.
I haven't got the Zina yet in there. It's my pleasure to introduce this school. They did a feasibility study that was really completed in 2015, and I think for the last 2 years, I have been working with the school to complete all the requirements for approval. They're here again today because they were at your November board meeting and they didn't have their individuals present, so we're asking you again to approve a new program. This program is located in Fresno, California, and as you probably have heard, Fresno, California has a consortium. And so that consortium provides the mechanism for placement of students. In order to prepare myself for this second visit with you, I went to Fresno in January and I reconfirmed all the information that you're finding from the previous meeting. They've done some wonderful things with removal of other programs within the site where they're going to have their RN program. They have a first-class simulation lab. They have some very expensive equipment in there, and they have a fully trained faculty to provide education in scenarios and for skills class. This particular school also has a long history of LVN education, so one of the things that we're asking for your approval is that the first cohort that they're going to accept be an LVN cohort, and then the rest of the cohorts will be generic. The total enrollment that they would like to include is 112 over a year's period of time. The first cohort is 28 students, LVNs, who are going to go through an original kind of getting ready to go to RN from LVN, and that's going to occur March 5th. The third paragraph, it has a different date, but the date is March 5th. The successful students going through that course will then be admitted to the actual RN portion of the course. I did a long visit with all the hospitals in Northern California all the way to Bakersfield. They have a very strong ability to get students from all areas going up I-99. And so I'm very sure that they are able to accomplish their goals. They're going to be using the large hospital in Fresno at 680 beds. It's kind of for me in Sacramento, it's kind of a mirror image of UC Davis, but they also have other clinical areas, and they have some wonderful outpatient experiences that they've already secured. So they have an assistant director that has been hired and working there, and they also have a simulation. They're ready to hire and put into place the regular faculty. So I am asking you to approve this program, Gurnick Academy of Medical Arts in Fresno, California. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions from the board?
I do have a couple questions. My standard one I ask everybody is, what is the cost of the program?
Cost of the program is $81,000, and for a Gurnick alumni, 16,468 grant that we give for an alumni.
Okay, let me make sure I understand. So
81,000
it's 81,000
for the generic
but
ADN, and for an alumni to get into the LVN to RN, we give a 16,468 grant.
And I'm noting that all the boxes are checked compliance on the report, as well as any issues around providing clinical work and not displacement. My question, Jeanette, is what method of verification did you use? I mean, I understand about the consortium, but just how did we make sure we verified?
Probably the largest school in Fresno is the ADN program. Around 300 students. We had a letter from the director from that program that no displacement will occur. We also had concurrence with the other programs verbally, not in writing. And so I did not try to go further with interviewing everybody to see if there was any displacement. I relied upon the goodwill of the consortium and the letters that we received from the schools in Fresno themselves.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions. You said the first class is going to be LVN students only. Is that my understanding? The initial course, starting in March 5th, will be a cohort of LVNs who have their license, who are going to start the second half of the ADN program. So yes, the first cohort will be a group of LVNs. Only be LVNs. And so do they challenge some of the courses, or is it a different curriculum if there's somebody that's an LVN versus... They have a transition course. They're given credit for their previous learning in the LVN course. However, they have to demonstrate through a transition course that they've retained the knowledge that they learned in the LVN course and through practice. So there is a period of time where they're going to go through a transition course to do that verification. Thank you.
I have a couple questions. On your clinical placement availability legend, I see you have Tulare Regional Medical Center, and that hospital is closed right now. I'm not sure when they're open. Second question is, I don't see Children's Hospital for peds. Where are you going to do peds? Are you going to do it? Plan to do it at community?
Yes, we do have CRMC. We have Central Star for the mental health portion of pediatrics. And we also have a partnership with the rural clinics such as Clinica Sierra Vista Fine, Clinica Sierra Vista West, and we have clinics as well, the Fresno Medical Group, and we have Delano Regional Medical Center.
Okay.
I did the visit to Larry, had just...
Yeah, they've been trying to reopen, but they haven't reopened it.
I read it, but I don't know anything that has happened yet.
And then simulation, how much time are you planning to spend simulation?
17 to 20% of simulation.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Please state your recommendations.
I'm recommending that you approve Gurnick Academy of Medical Arts as an ADN program in Fresno, California.
So move.
Second.
Public comment? No public comment?
My friend here says I must tell you how many students in the first cohort. It would be 28 LVN to RN, and the total enrollment would be, after that first enrollment, would be 28, with a total of 112.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, I'm going to abstain.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
So much.
Thank you, guys.
Item 7.5.
Progress report on transition phase for separation of El Camino College Torrance and the El Camino College Compton Education Center Associate Degree Nursing Program, second quarterly report.
Good morning. My name is Badri Caraway. I'm Supervising Nursing Education Consultant for the Southern California. And unfortunately, Dr. Wanda Morris was unable to attend the meeting, so I'm going to read the report since it's information only. Dr. Morris has been Director of Nursing for the Associate Degree Nursing Program at both campuses since January 6, 2015. And she has 4 assistant directors, 2 for the Camino College and 2 for the Compton College. Since the initial letter was sent to the board dated September 18, 2017, the Compton Community College District has continued to hold a transition meeting once a month to discuss the progress of the various divisions departments and programs at the Compton campuses. And nursing program is one of them that needs to be separated from the Camino College. The last meeting was held on December 12, 2017. The nursing program update includes implementation of strategies to enhance their NCLEX to RN pass rate on the NCLEX RN exam. It has been lower than 75%. The strategies include the following. They developed a policy to include incorporating standardized testing across the curriculum. They're using the ATI capstone review in the 4th semester of the nursing program, and they use the ATI RN comprehensive predictor assessment to identify areas of weakness and assist those who experience deficiencies in tutoring and mentoring. Number 4, they offer all graduates the opportunity to attend a face-to-face NCLEX RN review 3 to 5 weeks after graduating. The 5th steps was student success facilitator have been added to each semester of the nursing program to assist the students with tutoring and mentoring. Students who scored less than 76% on any exam are required to attend a student success seminar and workshops on a weekly basis throughout the duration of the course. ATI faculty facilitator will be hired beginning spring 2018 to assist with the students who are identified by ATI as being at risk. Since the strategies has been implemented during the first quarter of the 2017 academic year, the Compton College NCLEX pass rate was 83.33%. There were 18 graduates to test, 15 passed, the 3 failed, and those who have failed, they retook it in spring 2017 and they graduated. The students cohort for the fall 2017 semester at the Compton campus consists of 30 students. During the 12 weeks of their 16 weeks semester, the ATI RN Comprehensive Predictor Assessment exam was administered. 29 out of 30 students successfully passed the exam. Toward the end of the fall 2017 semester, a meeting was held with the graduate to emphasize the importance of taking the NCLEX exam within 3 months after their graduating from their program. This concludes my information. I also had the opportunity during the COADN meeting to meet with Dr. Morris, and there has been much more improvement has been made in their program, and she's going to provide me with a written report that I will be submitted for the March ELC. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7.6, Continuing Education Ad-Hoc Committee Meeting Update Report.
Good morning. My name is Susan Engel, Dr. Susan Engel, Nursing Education Consultant. I'm presenting the updated report. The Continuing Education Ad Hoc meeting was held September 26, 2017. Board members Michael Jackson and Donna Gerber and liaisons Dr. Morris, State Superwoman, and myself attended the meeting. And we were appraised of the reviewed 799, chaptered at S520, approved by the governor on October 5th, 2017, Business and Professions Code 2811.5, and it includes that the board will deliver a report to the appropriate legislative policy committees detailing a comprehensive plan for approving and disapproving continuing education opportunities. The BRN staff will provide a draft plan to the Continuing Education Ad Hoc meeting. And the next meeting is scheduled for May 17th, 2018. That concludes my report.
Moving on to item 7.7, NCLEX pass rate update.
Katie, before you begin, keep in mind we have the National Council in the room. So they may want to sit on the edge of their seat for this report. Make us look good, Katie. Don't embarrass us.
We have enjoyed a superb relationship with the National Council of State Boards over at least my tenure with the board, which began in 2000. My name is Katie Doherty. I'm one of the nursing education consultants in the Sacramento office of the board. This is an information-only item. The first table before you is our table reflecting the 12-month rolling total of first-time test takers, and the period being reported this morning is the January 1, 2017 through December 31, 2017 period. You can see that California had a total of 11,794 first-time test takers, and I'm delighted to report the pass rate in California for that 12-month period is 90.20%.
How does that fare with other regions and states?
I'll be talking a little bit about that, but we're doing very well. You'll also see in that same table, we're reporting on the aggregated national pass rate for the United States and its territories. And that total first-time test-taking group was a total of 157,733, and the pass rate for the at the national level is 87.11%. Typically, what I also report at this time is the comparison to the 12-month rolling total for last year. So in California, the pass rate that we had at that time for the same rolling total period was 88.25%. So you can see that in this particular period, January 1 through December of 17, we're up 1.95%. As far as the national rate, here too, when we looked at the 16 rates, it was 84.56%, and again, the national rate is up 2.55% at this time.
Katie, just one thing about that is that California is the largest group of nurses in the country, correct?
We have 438,000 licensees, yes.
Thank you.
But comparatively, there are a number of state board jurisdictions who have similar numbers of first-time test takers, and I'll talk a little bit about that as I typically do moving forward. Some of our states like Florida, Texas, et cetera, if you'll recall, have quite a large number of first-time test takers in the range of 8 to like 13,000, depending on the testing period. The next table that I'm reporting on is the immediate quarter of October through December of 17 results, and California in that quarter had a total of 1,716 first-time test takers and a pass rate of 87.59%. And again, comparatively, that's up about 0.75% over 16 rates. As I also indicated earlier, that typically what I report to the board is what the quarter, October through December, might look like when we compare first-time test takers for a number of test takers in the range of 757 first-time test takers to the range of 1716 test takers, which would reflect California's rate. So using that particular quarter range of first-time test takers, California is at number 1 with the 87.59%. That's followed by Texas, who had around 843 test takers, and their pass rate was 84.58%. New York had, for this quarter, October through December, 757 first-time test takers and a pass rate of 81.77%. And then finally, fourth within that range was Ohio, who had 844 first-time test takers, and the pass rate was 78.44%. Also, I typically report the 12-month range, the rolling total comparison that Mr. Jackson talked about. And again, using the range of first-time test takers that goes from 8,282 to 11,812. California is at number 1. We had 11,794 and a pass rate of 90.20. Followed by Texas, who had 11,812 first-time test takers and a pass rate of 90.09. Followed by New York with 9,443 and a pass rate of 85.0%. And finally, Ohio, who had the 8,282 and a pass rate of 84.96%. Any questions about this first data set? The next page of your report is similar information really being reported out by degree type. And here too, in October through December, we continue to show the trend of an increasing pass rate that really mirrors the data that was reflected earlier. Any questions about that report? And then finally, as is typical for the February board meeting, I've included for you the July through June pass rate trended reports for first-time test takers. And you'll note there that California National, the trend since 1999. And so when we trended the data for July 1 through June 30 of 2016-17, you'll notice that California achieved its highest pass rate in that trended period of time of 89.47%, the highest that we've achieved over this many years since 1999. And then the second table is what we report for the July 1 through June 30 period as far as a comparison of internationally educated. The national rate is there for 16-17, again, the July 1 through June 30 period, and there were a total of 13,103 and a pass rate of 38.9%. For California for that period, we had a total of 1,384 first-time test takers and a pass rate of 31.0%. And again, that's up 4.9% over the last July 1 through June 30 report data in 15-16. Are there any questions about the reports? Again, I'd like to take this opportunity to really commend the nursing educators in the state of California for all of the hard work and the superb job that they're really doing to ensure that students who graduate from their programs really are achieving first-time pass rates at 90.20% at the current period.
Katie, thank you for your report.
Sure.
Before you leave, I do also want to publicly thank the BRN staff for improving the processes to allow our students to test faster, and also our clinical partners for the collaborative relationship to allow students to get the clinical experience that they need to be successful. So thank you. Well Well done.
Thank you very much for those added remarks, Dr. Morris. Any other questions? Thank you.
Agenda item 7.8, licensing program update.
Good afternoon, Christina Sprigg, Chief Licensing and Administrative Services. I had to bring back up Stacy Berman, the Assistant Executive Officer.
I'll be doing 6.4.
Do we want to do 6.4 first, or do you want me to just give the licensing update first?
Michael, which would you prefer?
6.4?
Okay, I'll do 6.
I thought 6.4 was deferred.
No, it's not, it was just moved to this
7.8.
section of the agenda.
Oh, thanks for telling me.
So that they wouldn't have to come up twice, it was just moved.
Your preference? 6.4?
6.4.
Good morning, Stacy Berman, Assistant Executive Officer. Agenda item 6.4 is to discuss and possible vote to change the regulatory proposal to modify California Code of Regulations, Article 2, Section 1419, renewal of license from an emergency to a regular rulemaking, or whether to have a rulemaking at all. This agenda item has been brought before the board a couple of times. It was brought to the November board meeting, where it was requested that there be additional information provided to the board in order to make a decision. At the November board meeting, we had completed approximately 79% of the fingerprints that were outstanding, and as of about a week or two or so ago, we were up to 86% of the fingerprints that were outstanding have been completed, which only leaves us at 14%. And that group, we have notified, all have been notified once or more that the fingerprints are required, and should they not respond to the fingerprint letters that we've sent, they will be referred to enforcement for a possible citation and fine. So what staff is asking is the board's decision and direction on whether to seek the emergency rulemaking, a regular rulemaking, or whether to seek the rulemaking at all.
Okay, so then my question on that is just, so we have, for clarification, we have 14% that have not complied.
Correct.
And of those 14%, you said the board has contacted all of those people?
Correct.
And so all of those people will be dealt with in one way or another?
Correct.
As far as they will either be fingerprinted or there'll be disciplinary action, and then they won't be allowed to practice?
Correct. Well, it's not that they'll, disciplinary action will not be taken.
Explain to us, just go through what will happen.
So
if they've been notified and they don't comply and get fingerprinted.
If they fail to comply with the fingerprint requirement, they will be referred to enforcement for issuance of a citation and fine. At that point in time, they will still have to comply with the fingerprint requirement, or at the time of renewal, the renewal will not be completed without the fingerprints being completed.
And for renewal, we're talking a cycle where every person comes up within a 2-year period for renewal, correct?
Correct.
So within only a few months to less than 2 years, they all have to be fingerprinted to be renewed?
Yes.
Okay. So are there any comments from members of the board?
And keep in mind, Madam President, the fine is up to $3,000, am I correct?
I don't think we're...
What's the fine amount, Shannon?
1,000.
1,000? Okay.
1,000 if they don't comply.
Correct.
Thank you for the correction.
I just have a question, because I've talked to some nurses who say, they've been OR nurses, and basically say, we don't have any fingerprints. We've tried. What happens with those individuals?
So there is a process. If their fingerprints reject for purposes of the clarity of the fingerprints themselves, they will have to reprint again. If they reject the second time, then we actually complete a process through the Department of Justice of a name check until we receive an actual result from both the Department of Justice and FBI.
Okay, so that's a process.
There is a process, yes.
Thank you.
Just a personal comment on that. As a senior mature nurse who has no fingerprints, they can, If you don't have fingerprints, you can still have your RN license because they do the investigation. So it doesn't mean that they wouldn't be able to have an RN license. They just have a different process they go through, which I experienced.
I thought so, but I wanted to make sure so that I can tell people when they ask a question.
Yes, yes, there is.
Madam President, I just want to reemphasize the importance of nurses complying. Once they receive the letter, the board has worked very aggressively to ensure the mission is carried out. And I must say I'm very proud of our staff really taking this matter serious and ensuring that we are trying to protect the public, ensuring that all nurses are fingerprinted. And given the time frame when this matter was introduced in November, I think it was October, November, in the number of nurses that were outstanding initially, to say that we have now contacted all nurses is a tremendous accomplishment to the board. So I would like to personally thank the staff for all the hard work to ensuring that we contact these nurses.
Based on this information, the administrative committee would like to put forward a motion. We'd like to move to, let's see. I move that the emergency rulemaking package to amend the California Code of Regulations, Article 2, Section 1419, be withdrawn because of the finding that the emergency no longer exists.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
Okay, is there any comment? Okay, then I move we vote.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, thank you for your time.
Does that resolve the issue of seeking the regular rulemaking?
Through both, right?
Correct.
Okay.
It's been withdrawn.
Because they'll be dealt with.
Yeah, it'll be dealt with within the period, and you're up to 86%, and you're doing enforcement now. So there won't be a public risk at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to agenda item 7.8, the licensing progress report.
Christina, can you speak up? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I'll get a little closer. Usually I'm very loud, so surprising. So first I'd like to introduce the new licensing manager over the U.S. Evaluations Unit, Mario Zetter. I believe he's in the back of the room. And then also the licensing supervisor, Santiago Bupara. I will be discussing their units. I just wanted you guys to put a face to the individuals that are over the staff in that particular area. So myself and the assistant executive officer continue to conduct a presentation overview to students on the first day of our disciplinary hearings, which was yesterday. And yesterday was actually the first time we not only conducted that presentation, but we also telecast that presentation to our hearing room over in the other DCA building, which we call Headquarters 2, which is where our office is located. We had a large volume of students that had RSVP to attend the meeting, which we knew we could not house all in this location here. So we did open up the hearing room at our other location, and we webcast the meeting into that particular room. Along with that, we were able to use the instant messaging for that presentation so that those students could ask questions. We had staff located in that building. They were instant messaging the questions over to us, and we were able to relay those questions over the live feed and respond to questions from students over in that particular building. So it did work out. It was the first time we have done that type of coordination between two separate locations. So it is something that was successful for us yesterday. The board continues to utilize the cloud drive to receive electronic transcripts from California programs. We have finalized the processing of our fall-winter grads and we had close to 4,500. It was actually 4,400 172 applications that we processed during that period of time for our California grads. In addition, our evaluators continue to process the initial review of our exam applicants that we received in December and endorsement applications that we received at the end of November. We're close to moving into December for those endorsement applications. Excuse me. We do continue to improve the endorsement process. We've begun a pilot program with several nursing staffing agencies in October of 27 for accepting electronic transcripts from third-party vendors for out-of-state applications. An integrated process was created to accept electronic transcripts from out-of-state schools and approved to third-party vendors via a secure method. The pilot is proceeding smoothly. However, staff have identified a technical glitch in the process that is currently being addressed with the vendor that the glitch has occurred with. Barring any additional setbacks, we expect to roll out this service to all of our endorsement applicants in late March. Once the process is fully vetted, endorsement applicants will be able to submit all application requirements completely online, aside from mailing in the fingerprint cards if they are located out of the state of California. Upon implementation of this service, we expect to see a reduction in the application processing time, as well as a reduction in the number of phone calls the board receives regarding endorsement matters. So Dr. Morris, as Dr. Morris mentioned earlier in his executive officer report, the Green Project, we launched the Green Project in September of 2017, and since its inception, the staff continue to implement enhancements, which include the following: our electronic transcripts for out-of-state schools, which I just discussed, implementation of online-only initial applications by exam and endorsement as of January 2018. The project is still slated for implementation in the coming months and is pending implementation of changes to Breeze online applications occurring at the end of March. Deficiency notification statements to applicants via their personal online Breeze accounts as of September 2017. This feature was fully implemented for all application types. BRN licensing staff were trained on adding deficiency information to the Breeze application, and applicants are able to view this information by logging into their Breeze accounts. Improved license lookup verification in Breeze. In October of 2017, DCA launched the improved license lookup and verification system in Breeze, offering a cleaner interface and more information at a glance on a licensee. So future Green Project enhancements for our BRN staff, our back office system of Breeze, will include the implementation of all of our work queues, which is slated for later this year. The elimination of creating our paper files. Of course, when we go paperless all online, that process will be implemented into the paperless process, which will eliminate the creating of paper application files for tracking of application purposes. The initial launch of the Green Project included the elimination of the 6-page paper renewal notification for the RN in each certification. The new renewal notification is 1 page and includes notification for the RN and any certification held by the licensee. The new renewal notification directs the licensee to renew online and no longer provides a renewal coupon or return envelope. This change took effect with the mailing of the September renewal notices, and as of December 2017, all renewal licensees are directed to renew online. So moving on to the Public Information Call Center, I would like to introduce the supervisor for the call center, Christina Lane, again in the back of the room, and her manager over the administration renewals call center area, which is Ronnie Whitaker. Okay.
Christina, may I interrupt you? You go on to the call center. Just to reemphasize what she's saying so it's very clear, we know that we receive many calls regarding the endorsement process. So keep in mind that we are in a pilot process. That pilot process is going very well. There's been some updates into the Breeze system to allow that's taking place as we speak. And given another several months or so, we plan to go live with the endorsement pilot.
End of March.
At the end of March. So at the end of March, that process that we have piloted will be completed, and we plan to go live with our new process.
Yes.
Are you taking questions yet on your report?
I can
Call
take
center?
questions on the part that
center?
I've talked about, yes.
Call center. So what I would like to know.
But she hasn't gotten to the call center yet. She's going there.
I thought I heard call center, that's why.
No, she's going to speak about that
All right,
now.
so when you
This
get
was
there, I'll be ready.
just related to the endorsement.
I'm waiting.
Endorsement issues.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. So I can hold my comments on any section of the report till the end?
Yes, or if you can speak about the endorsement part.
Okay. So my question regarding the endorsement part, and in fact the whole green project, is this. Do we have what you might call Plan B? Should all computers go down? Should there be some major cyber attack and or screw up? Do we have a plan for what we do in that kind of a situation?
Individuals can always we can always reinstate paper applications where we will accept paper applications. But aside from, if it's a major attack that takes down all systems, we really would not be able to issue licenses at that point until some systems are returned. As far as cashiering payments, that is all done through our electronic system. It can be done manually. It will, of course, take longer. We currently manually cashier payments that we receive, but they're cashiered into our electronic system. So into the Breeze system, we cashier all payments into that now currently. So if that were to happen, that would take down the system for the entire department.
Well, I'm not surprised at that answer. I think, however, for future, I would like to suggest that there needs to be research and discussion amongst staff on this, on a major cyber event, because as we know, this is no longer something that only happens in the movies. And I think we have to think ahead a little bit to what would happen in California relative to a registered nurse needing to indicate that they are a registered nurse in a situation where either we've been hacked or our system is down, we can't get it to work, we can't locate the paperwork, we can't, all of that kind of stuff that we would normally do in a paper world, you would simply go find it. I know that these are the kinds of things that large companies and other governmental agencies are having to think about, so I think we would be prudent to do so.
Now, since we no longer will have that plastic card, how will we be able to confirm? It isn't a matter of renewal, but how do you confirm and prove you're an RN?
I would also like to just weigh in for a second on this, and that is that it's not only a technological fall. It's what happens if there is no system available as we have today. How are we going to prepare for an emergency? And I would venture to say that it's not just the Board of Registered Nursing, but it should be all health healing arts boards in the state, that there has to be some kind of a plan or discussion with staff so that you guys will be able to be in a position of knowledge that you can inform us as to what if, and are we prepared for what if.
Other questions on that section? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Public Information Call Center area. So I met with the Department of Consumer Affairs Office of Information Services Telecommunications staff to discuss options for enhancing the board's telephone system. Some of the areas discussed, or one of the areas discussed, included available features such as the callback feature. This feature allows callers to select an option to be called back instead of waiting on hold. It would hold the caller's place in the call queue and would call back once the agent is available to take the call. This feature is being explored, but may not be able to be implemented until we have sufficient agents to accommodate the volume of calls received by the board. This feature works best when the percentage of calls answered is above 85%. Another available service is online web chat, which would allow an individual to communicate with a call center agent in real time through the board's website. Web chat is available for use by the board, but does require designated staff assigned to only communicate via web chat. It is not recommended that a call center agent take calls while also responding to web chat conversations. Additionally, individuals assigned to web chat will need to be able to host multiple conversations at the same time. And so we are still exploring this option to determine if this would be a viable option for the board as well. Our call center currently supports a population of over 435,000 licensees and over 35,000 applicants. We currently have 11 call center agents that are approved positions, in which 3 of those positions are currently vacant. One of the positions is assigned to specifically work at our public information, our public counter, leaving 10 positions to answer calls. With 3 vacancies, of course, we have 7 agents. One of those agents is assigned specifically to handle fingerprint questions, as they have a designated phone number that's listed on the letters that we have been sending out to our to licensees regarding the fingerprint requirements. So that leaves 6 agents on the phone. With the size of the board's licensee and applicant population, this equates to call center agents supporting approximately 50,000 licensees and applicants, 50,000 licensees applicants per agent. The average monthly calls received is just over 56,600 calls, and board staff are only able to answer approximately 10.6% of the calls annually. That breaks down to an average of about 6,000 calls per month. And then I've provided you with the call statistics for 2017. Specifically, the total calls offered for 2017 were 679,453. The board was able to answer 10.6% of those calls, which equates to 76,000 calls. You'll notice 2 other numbers there, the calls terminated and calls abandoned. Those relate to the calls abandoned are individuals that have called in and have hung up. The calls terminated are individuals that have called in and have not been able to actually get into the queue. So those calls have been disconnected by the system. Our call center per agent statistics, our agents per hour are able to answer anywhere between 6 and 8 calls. And then I break it down by day, week, month, and then annually. So in order to capture more accurate data on the incoming call volume and wait time, the board recently removed the restrictions on the queue call limits. The queue limits would only allow a specific number of calls to enter the waiting queue per agent logged into the system. Once the queue is full, the callers would receive a message indicating that the call volume is high and to please call back. Those would be the calls terminated. Unfortunately, the phone system would disconnect the caller and not allow the call into the wait queue. Removing the call queue limits now allows all callers to enter into the wait queue. Granted, that did increase the number of calls waiting, and the wait times have been as high as 2.5 hours. And I actually have it up at the moment, and currently our call wait time is 1 hour and 40 seconds. The call center supervisor and manager are monitoring the daily statistical information and are working with staff to increase the number of calls answered per hour. However, given the volume of calls received, the average time spent on phones per agent ranges between 5 and 10 minutes. In addition, staff are required to document notes in the brief system for each call, thus causing wrap-up time between calls from 10 to 90 seconds. We will continue to evaluate our statistical information to determine the number of positions needed to respond to all calls received through the call center. We're also working with DCA's budget office to review our current budget to determine if we have the spending authority and funding to create limited term positions for the call center. We are in the process of completing a reconfiguration of the existing call center cubicle workspace. The reconfiguration will add workstations to house supplemental staff we are seeking to hire. It is estimated that the reconfiguration will be completed, I just found out yesterday, it will be completed in May of 2018 versus what's stated in the report of April 2018. Additionally, we are also working with the department to explore other options to hire and secure space outside of our current location for growth of the entire board. Below, I also included a list of our staffing updates. I won't go through each individual one. And then, of course, a new hire that we had in our licensing unit, a licensing evaluator. And then, last but not least, our statistical information related to our licensing applications that we have received thus far by the board. So are there any questions?
I do. I want to thank you for your report, first of all. This has nothing to do with you, but it has to do with the system, and it's totally unacceptable.
Yes.
It is irrelevant to me that you're trying to do all these changes without the ability to today put in place something that's going to allow the caller to either access a live person or access an email where the person will be answered within 12 to 18 hours. That is a state entity. I think we have the responsibility of making sure that our client base, be it the practitioner or the public, are dealt with in a timely fashion. And this is just totally unacceptable. So if it means that you have to have the emergency authority, I don't know who I need to talk to. But and I'm sure your staff, Dr. Morris, I'm sure you've been very involved in this. But you know what? It's got to stop. I mean, we keep kicking this can down the road, and I've tried calling, and I can't get through. If I don't have one of your phone numbers, I'm out of luck unless I can figure out how to email you, and it's just unacceptable. So versus having this wait till May, I would like to have at our next meeting, which I know is a committee meeting, or from staff an update somehow to allow us to know what is going on. The idea that you're taking in 56,000 calls, or I don't remember your numbers. I mean, your numbers are quite scary.
56,000 per month.
I mean, I don't think anyone is calling the BRN to find out what the weather is in Sacramento. Somehow I don't know that that's the intention of any caller. But I think that we have people's lives on the line, people's mental health on the line, and the state's goodwill on the line. And I can't believe that the state wants to have frustrated customers. I just can't believe it. That this becomes a newspaper story, you don't want it. They're going there either. And that's not the way we should be figuring out what to do. So if it means taking a building and configuring it with telecommunications, or taking students and putting to computers that, you know, answer questions and release, I don't know what you want to do, but somehow this is unacceptable. I apologize, but I'm very frustrated.
If I could, just to follow up, Christina, I assume, well, I know that the board has requested additional staffing. I know that They're attempting to find additional space. I guess I would just ask you, and thank you very much for kind of laying out the specifics here, because we generally know that this is a problem, but it's always good to put the data down. My question to you is, what do you recommend that we need?
We need staff.
The money's no issue and staff's no issue.
Right. We need to know the money that we can spend on staff, which we are working with the budget office to determine. We need staff. We need to hire additional staff to house in the call center. We will be coming with the additional workstation so that we can house that staff. Eventually, we will need more space and we will need more staff.
And I also want to say to the staff that are here that are involved in the call center, bless you. When I look at these numbers, I personally can't imagine talking to that many people and still remain a human being. So thank you, and thank all the staff that we have for the incredible, important work that you're doing. Bear with us. We're gonna solve this. So I guess it also, in reference to what Barbara was saying, I think it's a good idea to put this on the agenda again for the next meeting, and to go over the actual. I would like to see all of the requests that the BRN has made for additional call center staff. And I would like to see what the response was to our requests. And I think we, as a board, need to understand what the problem is. We need to get to the bottom of why we're unable to make this move. I mean, math is math. This is not, this should not be a big argument. It's not fake news. Thank you, Barbara. I'm trying hard not to think about anything going on out there in the outside world at the moment. But anyway, no, it's math. This should be pretty straightforward and pretty easy. You have this many calls. You have to answer these calls. You have to find out what's going on with these folks. We actually are a state agency. We provide a service to the public, and that includes both the licensees and the rest of the public. We're completely unable to do a proper job with this particular situation. So let's get in. Let's get in on it, right down to the weeds, and figure out where the bottleneck is, because there has to be a bottleneck where someone is telling us that they won't approve our positions. They drag their feet on whether or not we have enough space. How do we get more space? I mean, I've looked at the statistics that compare at least the healing arts boards in California. And again, it's math. If you look at the number of licensees, if you look at the number of staff, the BRN doesn't have adequate staff. It's a no-brainer. So you have my support to really push on this.
I want to add to that, and thank you for the report, because that's really helpful. Thanks to the staff that are trying to do a good job. But we've heard of improvements with the BRN and how we're functioning. But one of the things I still keep hearing is people calling in tears saying, I can't get through, I can't get through. And what really aggravates me is when I hear someone say, I've called, I finally got someone, and I had to call them again, and they tell me, if you don't quit calling, I'm going to put your thing at the bottom of the list. And that just drives me crazy. So we need some customer service training perhaps, but we do need the number of people added so that we don't have those people saying, I love the idea of the callback. I think that would be great to implement because I think that, really can help. I know when I call PG&E or whatever, I always appreciate that ability. But thank you for the information. And yeah, we have to support you in terms of getting the staff that's needed so that this problem can be resolved like we've resolved some of the other problems.
Just so you know, Pilar, we have actually been working on retraining of staff within the call center with a focus on the customer service because we know that we're not able to answer the volume of calls that we receive. So the staff that we do have in the call center they've gone through training. They are very good on the phones. With the number of calls that we receive, they're just not able to answer all of them. So yes,
Has there been any increase or decrease in the number of calls since the BRE system has been implemented, or that more and that there's been a lot more information on the website?
The number we've added additional information onto the website. We're constantly adding information to the website. The number of calls has increased since we have gone into Breeze, and probably more recently since we talk about our processes being updated and trying to process applications faster. I think the expectation of us processing those applications has also gone up. So a lot of the calls that we receive may be from individuals that submitted their application within the last 10 to 12 days, and they want to know why their application hasn't been approved. There's still a process that we have to go through, but that's, that has been an increase in the number of calls.
I don't know if there's been any thought to it, but many call centers are open 24 hours a day. Has there been any thought into expanding the hours of the call center, particularly when you're dealing with nurses that work
24
shift?
hours a day?
I think the first thing we really need to focus on is being able to secure the staff.
Correct.
Being able to secure the staff initially, and then looking at other methods and being able to assist our licensees, our applicants, and consumers.
I think you raise an excellent point, and we all need to remember that the luxury of having a callback opportunity, if you're talking, let's say, to Southwest Airlines, is that callback is not coming necessarily from the same city you're calling from. It's coming from somewhere else in the country. That you need one person per phone call to answer a phone call. It's not, and you need them in a location. It doesn't necessarily need to be in your building. It could be across the street here. It could be in this room.
Right.
But the thing is that I understand very clearly you need one vote, one voice for one phone call. The other thing is I would possibly recommend if you've looked into the idea of putting any kind of information onto the wait time. So while the person is waiting, they can be informed that A, you're very busy and you have no time and no employees, which nicer than that, and that the opportunity to specifically address, if you can figure out what the clump of calls might be about, to be able to direct. So if you're waiting anyway on an hour, that while they're sitting there maybe doing something else, they could hear some answers to questions.
So the wait times is another question that we do have out to determine if that is something that can be implemented into the existing system that the department has. And then with regards to the type of calls, we do have
tracking process.
Tracking codes that our agents, that we are refining for our agents to use so that we can determine the types of calls that are calling, so that we can then figure out, okay, what type of information do we need to add to our website. So we're really trying to figure out what types of calls are coming in. Is that information readily available on our website that potentially that person could go to our website, find the answer to their question, thus not having to call into the board. So we are looking at all of that data as well.
And track your website as well.
Correct.
Were you able to complete your problem issue question?
Yes.
And so we have a way of knowing that information as well.
We do have a website survey that is located on our website currently, and we are able to pull statistical information on what areas individuals are actually clicking into on our website.
Okay.
Christina, one more question. Do you happen to know, I we have approval for 11 positions in our call center, correct? And as it turns out, we really only have 6 of them online because we are using others of them in related activities. Do you know how many positions the DCA has in their call center?
I believe they currently have about 40.
40? 40?
40.
And do you know how the volume compares?
Their volume is very comparable to ours. It's about between 55 to 60,000 calls.
And so we have 11 positions and they have 40.
Correct.
Thank you.
Christina, one of the other things that I think would be helpful as you're gathering the information and looking at that is that we had a consultant that came in a couple of years ago and did a report to the board. I'm talking about fees and costs and supporting our board and what we needed financially to do that. And after we had the person come in, recommendations were made and licensing fees and other fees for the people, licensees of this board have gone up. So we have a much larger budget than we used to that's supposed to support the board and our needs. So based on the fee increases and our budget, what is this going to cost? And I have a lot of trouble, our board has trouble understanding how this doesn't fit within our fees and our budget.
So the thing with the budget is the board has specific appropriations that we are allowed to spend within our existing budget. So we actually have, the money is in our fund, but we don't have the specific allocation to spend that money for personnel reasons or for personnel and staff. So the way we get approval to spend the money that's in our fund is through the budget change proposal process, where we submit the budget change proposals and request the positions and the authority to spend the money from our fund. So the money is there, we just don't have the authority to spend it at this point in time.
Okay, thank you, because I knew the money had to be there.
Yes.
Because we've had a large increase.
Once budget change proposals are approved and positions are approved, then that money is then moved into our actual expenditure budget so that we have the authority to spend it.
Okay, so then you're going to talk to us, give us information about what we have the authority to spend out of the money that we have in our budget. Correct?
Sorry, repeat that.
Okay. Dr. Morris, do you want to go?
Basically, we, in order to spend, and I'll just keep this very simple, we need authority to spend.
Correct.
And we need to, so we would have to submit a budget change proposal to get the authority to spend money. And that process sometimes takes up to...
Takes a year.
About a year.
Usually the process starts in about March. We start submitting the budget change proposals, and then it goes through the process, and then it has to, of course, it goes to the legislature. You have to go before, of course, the Senate and Assembly budget committees before it'll be approved and go to the governor's office. Prior to that, it has to go through the department, be approved through the Department of Finance, through our state consumer agency, through the department. So there are many levels that it has to get through before it even gets to the governor's office for approval.
And that's the information I would very much like to see at our next meeting. Okay. I would like to see our history of requests.
That's right.
And what has happened to those requests. And I would like to see what our current requests are, if we have them. Does that fit with the procedure? Am I asking for something you can give me?
I don't know if I can provide you with the information.
A
lot of the information is
Eddie.
On the next ELC, which is in March. Okay.
Yeah.
ELC.
Yeah, let's do that. Absolutely.
A lot of the information is confidential until a BCP is actually approved.
So a BCP...
Budget change proposal.
Yes, budget change proposal is not a public document?
If it's approved through the process, yes, it is.
You mean once it's approved, it's a public document?
Yes.
But when it's generated, it's not a public document?
No, but the needs assessment can be public.
It hasn't been officially submitted.
Spencer?
He's absolutely correct. If a BCP has not been approved, it could not even be provided to the board members.
How about a needs assessment?
Assessment.
Oh, needs assessment.
If you
is
do it
public
through a needs
information.
if you decide as a result of doing, if you do A, B, and C, then you need this, then that process is public. So if it's determined that in order to do a good job, be transparent, and address the issue of public safety, that we need to stand on the ceiling, then that decision and that discussion is public conversation.
Well, I think what I'd like to try to get to, because I think the board can't really do its job unless we know what we're talking about. So we have to know that not only do we have this situation where we have X number of calls coming in and only 11/6 people to answer those calls, but we have to know that we as a board and that the staff have made that problem known and have been consistently trying to solve it. So whatever it is that demonstrates that information, that's what I would like to see at our next
Holding your
discussion.
feet to the fire. What I think I'm hearing our Ms. Gerber's, you want to know the information because you want to make sure it's being done, and you want to know what's being done. It either goes to administrative committee or goes to education and licensing, but it goes, and it can be discussed.
Because here's the bottom line. And I know the staff are very much aware of this, maybe even more so than board members. But my biggest fear is that one of those calls is somebody wanting to file a really important complaint. And we can't have that. We can't have the BRN, the DCA, the agency, the whole world. I mean, basically, we can't knowingly acknowledge that situation exists and do nothing about it. I don't want that to happen on my watch. I don't think anybody here does. So let's, if you can, really appreciate just getting all the information together, getting what we've done to try to solve it, getting what the answers back have been, whatever they've been. We need to know where it's at, and then we need to see the very specific recommendations for exactly what needs to be done.
Spencer, if they've been denied for budget change proposals.
Not public information. Of course, board staff can present the board with the information that it has requested. When issues like this have come up, the board president will invite someone from the budget office to be at a board meeting to answer questions. And I think that's what should happen in this case. One of the budget analysts can talk about, how much the board is allowed to spend, how its funds are allocated, and then it can address, your concerns and the board's concerns. That would be the best way to handle this.
I would add that addendum to my request then, to have someone here who can speak with us about the budget.
Want this at the next month's ELC meeting.
At the March ELC meeting?
Correct.
And at board meetings. It's also being recommended that we want them at the March ELC meeting, also at the April board meeting. So that these questions can be answered by an expert.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Mr. Jackson, are you done with your report, or are you still?
7.8, that was it.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to Ms. Gerber's legislative report.
Do we need a break?
Yeah, we'd like to take a 10-minute break, and 10 minutes we'll come back and start with legislation. Thank you.
Thank you.
No. Have people want to make planes. So going to Ms. Gerber's section of the agenda, we're going to legislation.
Okay, before we start the report on legislation, I just want to clarify for the board up front and the public, my general recommendation, because this is the beginning of the legislative process, is that the board take a watch position on most legislation, because it's just been introduced. It's going to change radically eventually anyway. We just want you to know kind of what we know about so far that's pending, but we're probably not going to make decisions today about what position the board takes or doesn't take. So with that, I've asked Kay to just give us a description of the bills without going into a lot of detail about exactly what's in them. These will all be discussed at much more depth at the next legislative committee meeting. Okay? Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Kay Winecombe. I'm a nursing education consultant and the legislative liaison to the legislative committee. You'll notice from the agenda that it is much shorter than what you have been used to, and that is because in order to streamline it, some of the bills that were already addressed by the board in 2017 and have either been chaptered or vetoed are not on the agenda. These bills are going to represent the 2-year bills and bills that have been newly introduced and bills that have been amended. Since January 4th, when the legislature returned to session, over 1,000 bills have been introduced. And tomorrow is the last day for bills to be introduced. So for the March Legislative Committee, I'm expecting that there may be about between 10 to 12 additional bills that the committee will consider and then bring to the board at its committee meeting in April. So what I have included in your materials is the legislative calendar. So you can see that tomorrow, the 16th, is the last day for bills to be introduced. So you have that for your reference. And in the tables that follow, which are the status of the bills that we're going to talk about today, I apologize, but I did not include in that very last column where it says bill status as of December 2017, that should be corrected to bill status as of February 5th, 2018, when these materials were prepared for this committee. So I apologize for that oversight. In terms of updating the table, the only change that has occurred since the materials were prepared is that on the very last page, under the bills that impact the board, Senate Bill 921, state agencies, which we'll discuss today, but it has been forwarded to the Senate Governmental Organization Committee. So I may refer to that again later. So with the bills that we're going to talk about today, we have Assembly Bill 710. And this bill, the number may sound familiar to you because the board did consider it under bills that impacted the board or DCA, and its subject was the boards and the meeting frequency. That bill was amended so that it now really falls more into the category of the bills that impact nursing practice. So you're going to see that bill number in both tables because now it's going to be an active bill under nursing practice. So Assembly Bill 710 is Assemblymember Wood's bill, and the topic is cannabidiol. This bill is, well, we're talking about the California Uniform Controlled Substances Act, where we have category or Schedule 1 substances that have the most restrictive limitations, and the Schedule 5 drugs are the ones that have the least restrictive limitations placed on them. So currently, cannabis is a Schedule 1 drug, and cannabidiol is a compound contained in cannabis, so it also would fall into the Schedule 1. So what this bill would do, if there are changes at the federal level regarding this drug, it would say that a physician, pharmacist, or other health arts licensee who prescribes, furnishes, or dispenses a product composed of cannabidiol in accordance with federal law is going to be considered to be in compliance with California state law governing those medications. It also that would exclude from regulation under that act any product that's composed of cannabidiol that's approved by the Federal Food and Drug Administration and either placed on a schedule of the Federal Controlled Substances Act other than Schedule 1 or is exempted from one or more provisions of that act. So again, this was a new bill. It was introduced on January 18th. Is it your pleasure that we consider a watch position for each one, or just take it as a global?
I think we can pick it as a global vote unless, okay, we'll do it that way.
The second bill to be presented today is Assembly Bill 1752. It's Assemblymember Lowe's bill related to controlled substances, the Cures database. What this bill does is now add Schedule 5 controlled substances to the database, and it also authorizes the Board of Pharmacy through regulation to add additional medications to be tracked in the Cures database. It requires a pharmacy, clinic, or other dispenser to report information required by the database no more than 1 working day after a controlled substance is dispensed, and it changes what information is required to be reported. It deletes references to classification codes and adds the date of sale to the prescription as its technical changes. Moving on to Assembly Bill 1795. This is Assemblymember Gibson's bill. The subject is emergency medical services, community care facilities. And the bill would authorize a local emergency medical services agency to submit as part of its emergency services plan a plan to transport specified patients to a community care facility instead of transportation to a general acute care hospital. It makes conforming changes to the definition of advanced life support to include pre-hospital emergency care provided before and during transport to a community care facility. And it also directs the Emergency Medical Services Authority to authorize a local EMS agency to add to its scope of practice for specified emergency personnel those activities necessary for the assessment, treatment, and transport of a patient to a community care facility. You'll note that in your materials, the California Nurses Association, National Nurses United provide a letter of opposition to this bill, so that is in your materials for your review. Moving to the Senate side, Senate Bill 320 is Senator Leahy's bill.
Hang on one second. I think we have a member of the public who wants to speak on this particular. And I'll just say, if you are here and you're wanting to address the board on any one of these pieces of legislation and you hear the number come up, please stand up and then I'll know to interrupt so that you can speak.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Saskia Kim with the California Nurses Association. I'll be brief in my comments since you've heard from me before on this issue. CNA is opposed to AB 1795. You have a copy of our letter because we believe it threatens patient safety. As you know, there are currently 13 pilot projects that allow paramedics to provide care not currently authorized by law. As part of the pilot projects, paramedics are undertaking care currently performed by physicians, RNs, and social workers with limited additional training. So, for example, in the case of the Sobering Center pilot, the alternate destination paramedics receive only 8 additional hours of training. Importantly, the patient population enrolled in the community paramedicine pilot projects doesn't reflect the diversity of California. So with the exception of 2 projects, the first year data show that the overwhelming majority of people enrolled in the pilot projects were disproportionately English-speaking white males. During the review of the pilot projects, most of the data collection is focused on cost savings, not necessarily patient outcomes, and we believe the focus on reducing costs without an equal emphasis on safe and effective treatment is alarming. So, for example, a hypothermic patient was refused admission to the Sobering Center because, surprisingly, it was not part of the protocol in the field for the paramedics to do routine body temperature measurements, and that's a standard of care that's for all nurses. And it's also especially concerning that it was missing from the Sobering Center protocol, given that hypothermia is common in chronic alcoholics. So, for all of these reasons and the other reasons stated in our letter, CNA opposes AB 1795. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to Senate Bill 320, this is Senator Leva's bill related to public health, public post-secondary education, on-campus student health centers, abortion by medication techniques. This bill would require that all on-campus health centers at public universities provide medications for early pregnancy termination for its students. And this bill would, on or after January 1st, 2022, require each public university student health center to offer abortion by medication techniques only to the extent that private monies are made available for funding. And then there are provisions related to there being the development of a fund called the Medication Abortion Implementation Fund, to which those monies would be deposited and then authorized for expenditures. The last bill is Senate Bill 921. This is Senator Morell's bill related to state agencies, internet websites, disclosure of financial information. This bill requires any state agency that maintains or operates its own internet website to post specified information regarding the number of persons it employs and its total authorized budget amount on its homepage. That concludes the presentation for the related bills.
Okay. And is Lorraine here? Is she going to do the other section of bills, or
I combined them. I did both sections.
Perfect. That's why we had the last one there. Okay. So I'm going to be making a motion that we take a watch position on the new bills.
Michael Jackson seconds it.
And we'll ask again, is there any public comment that we haven't already heard? Are there any questions from board members that need to be resolved today? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. To my left.
Jackson votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Randy Phillips, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes.
Barbara Yaroslavsky, yes.
Okay. I believe that concludes the legislative.
It would be 8.2 is an information-only
Go ahead.
item, and that is the summary of legislation that was chaptered in 2017. And so these bills' descriptions will correspond to their current status as reflected in the chart.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. I think we're good. Thank you so much, Kay.
Thank you, Ms. Gerber. And now we'll go to item 9.0, and that's going to be the discipline, and that goes to Barbara Yaroslavsky, Intervention and Discipline Committee.